All right, what's up, Siren Squad? We're going to have to get a little bit of an audio check here because, as you can see, I'm using a different source because we got something we want to share today. But before we do that, first, IG, can you say something so I can see how you come across on the
Hello,
screen?
testing.
You're a little quiet, I think. Say something again.
Hello, test.
Never mind, you're plenty loud. You're plenty loud. Am I plenty loud? That's the question. I usually am. But this microphone is trash and it moves when I move. So I just don't want to. Okay, I think we got it. It's really inconsistent. This microphone sucks ass. Okay. I do my best though. I do my best. First of all, chat, hi. Honestly, I'm here because I woke up this morning. I didn't sleep so well last night, but I woke up this morning and I realized I woke up old. I'm old. It's the truth. So anyhow, but I'm super tired and I had plans today to be able to thank you, Brandon. I had plans today to want to because yesterday I went out and we took Gunner to the channel and went for a walk and it was such a beautiful day and then it rained on us for 2.5 seconds and we got to see I've never actually seen like a full rainbow. I've seen rainbows, whatever, and there's always that little like you're supposedly that you can, go to the end of the rainbow, you'll get a pot of gold, whatever. But I've never actually been in front of where I can see the full arch, like a rainbow that's drawn in children's books and shit, right? So
Mhm.
that got to be a thing. That was fucking amazing. But not as amazing as the 4, possibly 5 sea turtles that we spotted swimming in the channel. And I was really disappointed. I took videos and I got to do some editing today on them because I want to share them as shorts over on YouTube and everything. But I couldn't see. You can't see. Sorry, I just got a text message. But I couldn't see through the camera. You can't catch the clarity of the water because there's reflection and everything going on, right? So the naked eye can catch different things. So I was actually close enough. I wouldn't go down any further. First of all, walking on a whole bunch of rocks scares the crap out of me. There's got to be 1,000 crabs living in there. And I'm really, as much as I love to explore things, there are I grew up in the country to a certain extent, but I always did prefer the city life. Okay. I'm just going to be clear. There's lots of reasons for that. So I'm not a big have critters come come all of a sudden surprising me. I'm not that kind of person. It's only fascinating once I know I'm safe and I'm at a certain distance where I feel comfortable. And I did not feel that walking on those rocks was going to afford me any of that because I would have had to take my shoes off because I was wearing sandals. And no, it wasn't happening. Logan, can you take Hottie out, please? So Hottie doesn't like what I'm talking about because I went without him. I took him. I went to go look at sea turtles without Hottie. Hottie wanted turtle soup.
Unbelievable.
So, but anyways, so you could actually watch them swim is my point. And even though I was only catching video and pictures of their head like popping up and a little bit of because they were feeding and whatever, and that was super cool. But the only reason why, but the fact that you couldn't catch, it almost looked like I was looking straight at it, and it was almost like watching in an aquarium. Because I could see through the water well enough to see them swimming below the surface, even when they were, and watch them swim to this. It was just an amazing experience. We wanted to see sea turtles since we got down here. There were what I would say at least 2 that we saw were juveniles, but there was one giant one that I ended up seeing, and I was like, oh my God, but I couldn't see his body, but I could just tell you by his head that dude was he was thick. He was built. He was like, oh my God, huge. But I never got to see the actual diameter of his back. But that was just super fun. And of course, the pelicans and the other stuff that goes on, just walking the channel. It was beautiful. It starts to rain. We're coming back. Here's the deal though. Then we went to the beach. And we didn't know why there were purple flags up. But we went out into the water anyway, just a little bit, just waiting. Gunner is getting more and more curious, but he really did not want Logan in the water. But then I just sat in my chair, in the water, just enough so that when the waves come up, just to cool off a little bit and get sun. And it was just, oh my God, such an amazing. I just love the air and the oxygen. It's just so good. It's so good. The beach is so good.
Just so good.
it's just amazing. So, but here's the deal. So I was like, because the mechanic came out to look at Daisy and was like, I need you to make her worse. So we were like, okay. And I talked about this a little bit before we went live with Silent Hill that day. Well, I left that day 7 times throughout the day. I left. Okay. Our gas budget has had to been increased now. So that happened too. But then it was like, oh my God, I literally today am actually feeling like I got out and I did so much yesterday. I'm tired. I'm fucking tired. It's been a busy week actually. And there are some things that I need to take care of at home. So I didn't get a very good night's sleep. I actually woke up with bad dreams. And then I, was like, maybe I'll just take it easy and like not even get out of bed. But that wasn't working for me either. However, so I go scrolling on my phone and I came across this video and I was like, oh my God. So I watched the whole entire thing and I decided, nope, I want to go live. I want to share this. I want IG to hear this because this is crazy. Now, it doesn't really matter. I know, okay, I know I've talked a lot and I'm like, so here's the deal. When I listen to this, I can see this applying. It's crazy because I can see how this is true. Okay. I, previous to this whole experience, would have been definitely actually acting as a more anxious attachment style. Now, when I got into my marriage, I was anxious attachment, but then I became secure because we grew. When my marriage imploded and things started with subject A, I reverted in my like trauma escape to being more of an anxious attachment style. Okay. And so I understand that. I understand that. But so this video is actually about and so it doesn't matter. We're not throwing around the words today. Like I know it says avoidant, but this is avoidant attachment style, not like an avoidant personality disorder. However, that would be why they get that, and whatnot. But avoidant attachment styles. So here, this video today is actually, and let's get it. Let me turn the TV on. This video actually highlights both sides of what you would experience. So if you are an anxious attachment style and you've become involved with an avoidant attachment style, it literally breaks down what will happen basically in the relationship and what goes on. And I'm sorry, I know. So can you be a narcissist and have an avoidant attachment style? I don't know. I haven't looked into it that far. Okay, we've talked about avoidant personality disorder, okay? And we've talked about this as like a personality disorder, but we are now talking, just to be clear again, about attachment styles. And all I'm going to tell you is you're about to have your brain blown, IG, okay? Your mind is just going to be like, what? Because this video literally will take you through the timeline of exactly what you watch Subject A and I go through. It is fucking scary. So we're going to watch it and I'm going to pause it in between because I want to be able to just discuss some of my own like personal, be my own personal experience with this. So, all right, Logan, can you give me a sound check when I start this? I think I've got it pretty well laid out, but I want to make sure that it's all coming through.
How the anxious person is always painted as the needy one until one day they wake up, realize they've been giving love to a brick wall, and suddenly they're gone. And when that happens, it's not the anxious one who looks weak anymore. It's the avoidant who realizes they've lost the only person who was truly showing up. The harsh truth no one talks about is this: when an anxious partner finally leaves an avoidant one, it's rarely loud or dramatic, it's quiet, it's decisive, and it's permanent. For so long, the anxious partner is the one begging, trying, holding on, over-functioning. And the avoidant believes they'll never leave because the anxious always stays, right? Wrong. There comes a day when the anxious partner doesn't just threaten to walk away, they actually do. And when they do, it's after years of exhaustion, after...
Okay, so first real quick, and I know that there's a delay because we couldn't get it set up so you could watch it in real time. But so here's the deal though. First of all, I got news for you. His wife, anxious attachment. Me, I was an anxious attachment. If he doesn't get his shit together, no matter what his deal is, this is the future because this is how it psychologically plays out. Most likely it wouldn't even occur for him until after the kids are grown anyway. And truth is, your father's an avoidant attachment style. too. This is where my brain was like, what the hell? Right? So where I used to always relate so much to subject A being like we were so much alike. Okay, we are. But the funny thing is, his wife displays the same kind of attachment style, the fear of abandonment, the trying to just be good enough, all of that. It'll talk about it as it goes on. So his wife displays that, and that's exactly where my mindset was too, and that's where my mindset has been. My mindset was like that when I got involved in my marriage. I was the anxious, my husband was the avoidant. And then so when you listen to all of this, just realize that we're again not talking about personality disorders, we're talking about attachment styles. And this particular attachment style, so typically we're drawn, right? So what happened is I ended up with my ex-husband. I was anxious. He was avoidant. And it almost cost us. I mean, like I talk about it all the time. I was toxic in the first 10 years of my marriage, but then I got better. Well, I went through therapy and I started behaving differently. I was actually catering to his avoidant style, making him feel more comfortable. Me, on the other hand, began to grow out of my anxious attachment into what is called a secure attachment, which is why when I went into the psych ward and I learned about attachment styles, this never struck me. Okay. I never thought of this. All right. But now here I am, and I'm come out on this other side of healing to this point where I'm like, oh my God. Right. So I'm watching this and I'm realizing that this is how my marriage basically went down. And the difference is that when everything imploded, basically started just fucking the rug pulled out from under us 2 years ago and everything. The problem was before that happened, I was secure, but my ex-husband went straight into his avoidant tendencies. And the difference was that in my relationship with my ex-husband, I had grown. There was enough there. I knew enough. I was secure enough that I was willing to walk away. And that's what totally floored him, because the person who's never willing to walk away will eventually walk away. So in terms of my my marriage, yes, years of it. But here's the deal. I had grown. And that's why only after, 10 months of dealing with this from subject A, I turned around and decided, So I didn't have to go through the years because I've already learned once. I just didn't know I was learning. I just didn't realize that that's what was going on. So, okay, anyways.
Realizing that love shouldn't feel like chasing a ghost. The avoidant, who thought they had all the power, is suddenly left alone, confused, blindsided, sometimes even desperate, because the anxious wasn't weak, they were strong.
Okay, so just for
Most
the
people
record,
are
let
too
me
lazy
get
to
over
do
here
this,
where
but
I
it
can
saves
turn around and
homeowners.
mute this during the ads. But no, the other side of it is the first thing he said when I was like, I'm done, I'm finally walking away, peace out, was he was like, I was just waiting for the right time to talk to you. I was trying to give time and space. He was very upset that I decided I was like, I'm done. Subject A, by the way. Subject A was like, I would just, needed time and space and whatever, and I was waiting for the right time to talk to you. Yeah, well, that doesn't work, okay? So that just doesn't work.
For them to see that strength. And here's the kicker: once the anxious person finds their self-worth, they rarely come back. The avoidant loses not just a partner, but the one person who was willing to fight hardest for them. That's the moment the dynamic flips. The anxious is finally free. The avoidant is finally exposed, and both are forced to face a truth they've been avoiding all along. Most people look at the anxious partner in a relationship and immediately label them as needy, clingy, or too much. It's an easy stereotype because their behaviors often show up as constant texting, seeking reassurance, or worrying when the other person pulls away. On the surface, it can look like
I didn't do any of that, did I, IG?
No.
Are you even listening to this?
I'm trying.
Are you?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have to rewind it because you're like, no, you didn't know the right answer, so you're not listening to it. You want me to go back a little bit?
Yeah, just like go back like 10 seconds.
Can I just double tap on the interaction screen to do that?
You should be able to.
That did not do that. All right, so I'm just going to try this live. Okay, right here. Okay.
and who was willing to fight hardest for them. That's the moment the dynamic flips. The anxious is finally free. The avoidant is finally exposed. And both are forced to face a truth they've been avoiding all along. Most people look at the anxious partner in a relationship and immediately label them as needy, clingy, or too much. It's an easy stereotype because their behaviors often show up as constant texting, seeking reassurance, or worrying when the other person pulls away.
Did you hear it now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't exhibit any of that behavior, did I?
Nah, not at all.
Not at all. Okay, chat, like on
No.
the real, like when this whole thing went down between Subject A and I, like I knew I was being like insecure. Okay, I knew that much. I didn't understand where it was all coming from, deep in the throes of trauma, deep in dealing with my freaking crap that had just happened in my life. Okay, but I would panic. And the truth is, people live their life, they go and do stuff. Like for some reason though, and I thought I was just being like, basically, like I didn't feel jealous or anything. Like the conversations that Subject A and I had around why we had made the choice and why the affair occurred and what was going on in his life that, made him step out of that zone of things that, like, well, that I now I don't know what I believe anymore. But if I were to believe everything I thought I knew about him, I wouldn't have ever, neither one of us were somebody that you would think was going to have an affair or, even display behaviors of infidelity in a relationship, let alone our marriages, right? Like that just wasn't going to be a thing. Now, I think that when I look back, I feel a little bit differently and I know more information now. But if I go based on what I knew about Subject A, okay, so I knew it wasn't jealous because I mean, like I had gotten myself to a point in my mind where he had explained enough to me about what he was feeling and about why he was feeling the way he was. And, enough of it, we've had enough conversations where I truly believed, that my belief was that he loved his wife very much, but she just, her actions and behaviors they hurt him a lot. Like he wasn't happy. And so, like that's what I believed it to be. And I believed that he was trying to find a balance. And I justified all kinds of things, okay, around this, by the way, like so that I would accept it. Like I somehow justified in my brain walking it around to a point where I never expected him to leave his wife. I never expected that. Whatever relationship or dynamic that Subject A and I were going to continue forward, we were going to be able to figure it out like adults. And, this was, I don't know what I expected. I don't know what I expected. But what I will say is that it also played a dynamic because he would usually pull away. And I always assumed, okay, that something had been upsetting because usually when things got really heavy for him emotionally, he would pull away. But I very rarely thought that it had much to do with me, at least in the beginning. As time went on, because I was clingy and I was insecure. And so it's almost like, it's not like I was worried I was going to lose him exactly. I was way worried about his mental, like where he was mentally, because of the conversations we had had and the sadness I thought he had displayed and the deep, like my heart hurt for him. He seemed so sad in certain instances. Not always, don't get me wrong, not always. But like just, I think now, most likely spiritually torn. And when you don't have something you believe in, it's easy, and he didn't, it is easier to probably end up in what you would call that, like whatever your beliefs are, to be torn, whether you're even your own, just coming down to your own self-worth, your morals and your values. Okay. Even if you don't believe in, like I guess I'm trying to speak from a religious or faith-based perspective. Okay. Most of us have very, strong thoughts, convictions of who we want to be, and whatnot in that manner. Right. So the conversations that he and I would have, I would get really worried. I just remember that one night that everything really went down and I sat on the phone with him while he slept and he never said a word. He called, he never even said a word, but I had known what had happened. And it was a situation and police officers had come out and whatever. And I was so worried about him that I just sat there on the phone and I would mute myself. And I remember because my nephew was visiting and I was, not Brandon's brother was visiting. And in between, I mean, his brother and I ordered Whataburger and like sat and chilled, but I just stayed on the phone the whole entire time muted because Subject A wouldn't talk at all. But I knew he was like not okay, And so he woke up at one point and he's like, "Why are you even still on the phone?" And I was like, "I wasn't going to hang up until I knew you were okay." There's this thing because yes, part of being an anxious attachment leads you when you are a very empathetic, very like dedicated individual. You couple my personality with having an anxious attachment in this situation. So, and then being involved with somebody who's got an avoidant attachment, it literally is creating this dynamic that this guy talks about. So, okay, we'll just keep going on, because you basically write a character script for the two of you, both of you, whether you realize it or not, by the way you interact, and then maybe it goes on forever. But according to this guy, eventually it doesn't. And this is the other side of it. Because if this is what is going on between Subject A and his wife, then most likely if he was doing the same behaviors with her and pulling away and doing that and she's feeling distant, she's just more accepting than I was. I was more pushy. You know what I mean? Like, I was not going to just let things go, because that's not who I am as a person, which makes my anxious attachment so much more. Where somebody who is got specifically abandonment trauma, okay, is not going to get to that point where they walk away, and they're going to allow this dynamic, which then allows the avoidant attachment to stay in a safe spot, because they know how to navigate it, so that the behaviors that the reactions that they get are more in tune with their personal goals. So the avoidant will know that they can put that distance that they need in order to keep themselves safe, you know, all right? They can put that out there, and no matter what, usually the anxious will always come back. It takes years and years and years for an anxious to finally get fed up. I think his wife may have been already getting to a point when we got there, because that, I'm not going to get into everything about how that all fucking went down. But here's the deal. For me, because of all of it, it wasn't going to take as long. So when he decided, basically, and I said I was ghosted for 7 months, right? When that happened, what he didn't realize is how quickly I would excel at this whole process that we're explaining right here. And so, which also makes me kind of sad. But because in the end, he probably really did think he had more time. And if you look at the whole entire 17-year friendship I had with him, there is no reason that he should have believed he'd ever had, especially after he hadn't talked to me in 7 months, there's no reason he would have believed that there was going to reach a point where I was like, you're one of those that's going on the list. I'm never talking to you again. Right? There's no reason he had to believe that. So, all right, we'll go on.
On the surface, it can look like weakness, but when you dig deeper, what's really happening is a form of persistence that comes from two places, love and fear. It's not about a lack of strength. It's about how their nervous system is wired and how much they're willing to fight for the connection they care about. Think about it. The anxious partner doesn't cling because they want to annoy or overwhelm their partner. They cling because they feel a sudden drop in safety when distance shows up. For them, closeness isn't just a preference. It feels like survival. When someone they love goes quiet, takes space, or withdraws emotionally, their whole body reacts as if something is about to be lost forever. So they push harder, not out of manipulation, but out of desperation to restore the bond. They're driven by the deep desire to protect the relationship, even if it means sacrificing their own peace in the process. This persistence often gets misunderstood. The avoidant partner may see it as pressure or control, but from the anxious person's perspective, it's love in action.
So, if I'm going to be real, and I like to be real on this podcast, right? So what that just told me about myself is that my behaviors, okay, would very much have mimicked or looked to him, if this is true, as a form of control or manipulation. And most likely, I wouldn't even be surprised if it has been an experience he's had. Remember how I always talked about how I would react to him as though his behavior was the same as what my ex-husband would do and vice versa? The difference is, those behaviors may have been the same on both sides. Like, he may have been acting in certain ways and I was reacting to him and assuming basically the worst of him. And he was in turn doing it to me because both of us had experienced a certain amount of hurt in our marriages that indicated these were red flags, whether we realized it or not, because the actions may have been the same, but they were done for different reasons. This is all hypothetical, assuming that, you know, subject A isn't a narcissist, has avoidant issues and avoidant attachment to style, okay? Like this, I'm just assuming here. Okay? So basically then, that would have been a red flag, which if it was, and he had an ounce of healthiness in his brain at all, he would have then wanted to both out of the avoidant attachment, okay? And also, though, out of just mental health and preservation, wanted to increase that distance. Now he's got the fuel and the justification to increase the distance and feeling like he needs that distance. Meanwhile, you got me over here where I told him multiple times, and this will talk about it, but I told him multiple times, like I felt like there was all of a sudden a disconnection. He was slowly pulling away, and I told him flat out, like if we're going in a direction that's too much and whatever, and we need to stop, like let's just be real and talk about this, because we never expected anything. We never expected this was supposed to be. We thought stupid things like leaning on one another would help us become better for our spouses. At least that was my idea. I really don't know what was in his fucking mind on this accord. I think I can't help it. I look back and I think he heard I got a chance to experience this, and I will say and do anything in order to have that experience. But that has nothing to do with whether or not he's an avoidant or a narcissist. I hate to say this. I'm not trying to be a man hater here, but let's think. I'm just saying, okay. Men have this one thing on their mind a hell of a lot more than women, okay? That's all I'm saying about that. So for me, when he would pull back and need that space for whatever reasons he was doing it, let's say it's not manipulation, let's say it's not control, and let's say it's not narcissism, okay? And we follow this hypothetical, and let's just go with it. And every time he would pull back like that, would make me turn into a crazy, clingy bitch almost. And that's what I couldn't understand. Why was I acting that way? I couldn't fucking understand it. That was my biggest thing. Like, I'm the type of person that can walk away though. Why am I, like, I was better at it in the beginning. What happened? Why was I not able to just like, you don't want to talk to me? Don't talk to me then. Fucking fine. You know, like that didn't happen. So I was really confused about it, which is what took me down my hole. That's why the mental health professionals believed I was experiencing this narcissistic, abuse syndrome and all of this stuff because of how drastically my behavior changed. But here's the deal. Not only was I thrown, my relationship with subject A was anything but secure. So now I've reverted back to my anxious attachment style. Okay. The only thing missing is a lot of anxious attachment styles will come with a certain side of jealousy. So I didn't recognize it at all as that because it wasn't jealousy. I wasn't jealous. And I wasn't insecure in the manner of like, my fear was not losing subject A. My fear was subject A was losing himself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, you can see how I was like that, right?
Yeah.
So I know you hate this. I can hear it in your voice. I know you hate all of this, and you are locked in. And I'm not disagreeing with you, but the point is, I came across this video, and I told you, I'm not going to go seeking this stuff. I'm not going to go planning this stuff. But when I come across something, this is way more about the insight into how, if this were true, my behavior, dealing with trauma and trauma response, okay, could end up being exhibited in what one would view as a fearful or even toxic, okay? My love was basically toxic in this situation, okay? But I was seeing it as love. And it is important for people who are struggling with this kind of stuff because it's when we are the most insecure in life, like we have gone through trauma or whatever, okay, or we've had this horrible experience or our past experiences have led us to have this kind of a fucking reaction with any relationship we are in, where we are being anxious, okay? That closeness can cause suffocation, and it will cause the other person to want to put that distance in there even if they're not avoidant. That's the key here, okay? Let's say they're not avoidant. They're not going to put up with the bullshit when you start getting clingy. And, you know, I hate these stupid commercials because, you know, because I follow all this. They're like, you want to know if he's cheating? Check his phone. And I used to be that person in the beginning of my marriage. What I realized is if I have to check his phone, I shouldn't be with him anyway, so I'm not even going to look. Just having a great enough fucking, like, desire to look should be reason enough, A, to not look, and B, to start making changes. Okay, because if that's where we're at, and the irony is, I hadn't gone through my ex-husband's phone in over 10 years, and he had come over one night, and we were gonna order dinner, and I had to check something, so he had given me his phone, and for some fucking reason, I opened it up to look at something, and I got nosy like I used to be, and that's how I found out that he had been lying to me about. And it wasn't a big deal. We were going the fact that he was seeing another woman was not a big deal. We were separated, okay, and I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on between subject A and I. Okay, so that wasn't the problem. The problem was that I didn't ask, and yet my ex-husband had gone out of his way to tell me that all he wanted was to focus on our marriage and make things better. And I told him flat out I didn't know where I stood on any of it. But he didn't have to tell me that he was dedicated and wasn't going to see any other women and then do it. You know, that was the problem. So, but anyways, so as this was talking about, it's talking about how the anxious is, you know, like starts to reach out more. They want to bring that closeness back. So when I started to feel like things were falling apart, it may have just been life. And truly, subject A told me at one point, like, you just needed to focus on certain things, you know? It's not that I wasn't listening. It's that at the time, my emotional capacity went into that trauma drive and was like something, you know, isn't like, why isn't he including me? Like, why isn't he willing to share the information? You know, like, why aren't we having the same level of communication? And it would have inadvertently basically kind of flipped me out. So
They're showing up again and again, asking, are we okay? Do you still want me? Is this safe? Because for them, love without reassurance feels unstable. That's why they text after arguments, why they struggle to give space, and why they keep trying to repair even when things feel broken. They believe that if they can just hold on tighter, the relationship will survive. There's also an incredible loyalty in the anxious style. While the avoidant is stepping back, needing air, the anxious partner is holding on with both hands. That loyalty can look unbalanced, but it comes from a place of genuine commitment. They don't give up easily. In fact, one of the most overlooked qualities of an anxious partner is their ability to endure emotional discomfort.
So my inability where I was sending him emails and trying to reach out, yeah, looks unstable to him. That's what that just said. Said that I looked unstable, but it also says that he completely misunderstood me. Because where I was coming from and what it meant to me was my last attempts to try to fix any semblance of any kind of interaction to create a safe space for him in my life. Whatever that might mean. I needed answers to know where those boundaries and those rules, and that's why I'm so focused on roles, where those boundaries and those rules would lie, but I needed communication in order to understand it. But now if he's an avoidant and he's going to try to stay away from it because he doesn't have the confrontation or he doesn't feel secure enough to be able to tell me what he's really thinking or feeling, or you know, it may be just as simple as that he realized that whatever we enjoyed being together, whatever, you know, that it could be as simple as that it just wasn't a choice he was willing to make. And that is something he kind of said to me. But unfortunately, because of his behavior, it looks far more like manipulation, discard, and all the things that it was. That's how it affected me either way. But it turns out this is the irony of it. Because I hate this, and you're not going to like this either, no matter what it all entails. He broke me so much it fixed me. Now, I'm not going to give him all the credit because I had to put in the work. But I think this speaks a lot. Their ability to endure emotional discomfort, how often I was spiraling, how often I was more worried about everybody in my life's current state of mind, and because I am capable of withstanding emotional discomfort for far longer than most others. Okay? So now, in a long-term relationship, like say his marriage, subject A is marriage. If his wife has an anxious attachment style, which I could totally see, all right, she's going to last a lot longer than I would have, because even though I may have been exhibiting signs of having an anxious attachment style, I have gone through a lot of healing prior to this. I was reverted, but I was catching up. I had a different basis. There's no way that this would have gone on for years. No fucking way this was going to go on for years. No way that he'd ghost me for 6 or 7 months at a time, pop in my life, and think he had a space. Was not going to happen. That is not who I am. The thing is that it may have seemed like who I was for the first 7 months of him ghosting me and why I was sending the messages. So he would have gotten comfortable and yep, she's right there. It's okay, you know? But the problem with it is he underestimated me and he does not fully understand who I am. So he was reading certain things as possible control and manipulation and playing a game with me when he didn't realize that there was no game in my life. This wasn't a game ever. And so testing me and seeing how I react to things, which is why he sends me a message and says, you kept doing these things and when I didn't react the way you wanted me to, then you just flip out. No, it's not about how I wanted him to react. It was about my desperation in trying to do what I could and what was in my power in order to maintain some sort, not let the relationship that we had of 17 years friendship completely go down the drain just because of our bad choices. Okay. And that was my desperate attempt to keep a part of it alive. And that's what he didn't see. That's what he didn't understand. And so, but in the meantime, he probably very much needed that space. And had I been in the right mindset, you know what? We may have never talked again though, because I probably would have been like, I hear you. And then I wouldn't have been the one to reach out. How many times did he reach out to even say hi to me when we moved? Never. That's why I didn't talk to him for 7 years, because I quit reaching out to everybody, but he never was like, hey, I was thinking about you and just wondering how you're doing. He never did that, So it was never going to happen. Like, and what he doesn't understand about it is, so that would explain why he freaked out when I turned around and I said, all right, because I warned him. I said, I'm getting really close. I said, I keep telling you, it's going to be my last email. It's going to be my last contact. And I keep getting really close. We're almost there. And the day that I texted him and said, we're there, it's today. Take care of yourself. Peace out. I'm done. And he was like, I was just waiting for the right, like I needed time. I was trying to give space. I wanted, and he freaked out all of a sudden, finally decided to respond. Well, this is why, because the cord is getting cut. And unfortunately, that's just the way it went.
But for the sake of keeping the bond alive, they will sit in uncertainty longer than most people could bear. They will fight through their own insecurities and fears to keep the connection intact.
If you live in a Texas zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years.
Okay.
This isn't weakness, it's resilience, even if it shows up in a messy form.
Messy
of
indeed.
course, the fear of abandonment fuels a lot of this. Many anxious individuals have histories, maybe childhood experiences where love felt inconsistent, where attention had to be earned, or where emotional safety was unpredictable. That history trains them to overfunction in relationships. They learn, if I don't work hard enough, if I don't chase, I'll lose this person. So when they sense distance, their instinct isn't to step back, it's to lean in harder. They're operating from a belief that closeness can only be secured by constant effort. It's important to see this not as desperation in the negative sense, but as the flip side of incredible devotion. Yes, the behaviors can overwhelm a partner who needs space, but beneath them lies a deep capacity for connection, for care, and for investing fully. Where the avoidant withholds lover's protection, the anxious gives more lover's protection. One builds walls, the other builds bridges, even if those bridges sometimes get shaky under the weight of fear. So when people call the anxious partner too much, what they're really overlooking is that this too muchness comes from a heart that refuses to give up. It's someone who values love so deeply that they'll fight for it long after most would have walked away. And while that persistence can sometimes cost them their own well-being, it also reveals a strength that's easy to dismiss, but hard to replicate, the strength to keep showing up, even when every sign says to let go. Avoidant partners often carry themselves as if they hold the upper hand in the relationship. They assume, almost unconsciously, that the anxious person will always be there, always waiting, always ready to patch things.
Now, I don't know if he still watches my streams, but I am who I am, right? And here's what I'm going to say about this. If any of this hypothetical situation is the slightest bit plausible, his wife's going to reach that point too if he doesn't get his shit together. And the real truth is, the fear that I was going to see his flaws and give up was probably way heavier to him than somebody who has put up with his flaws as long as she has and stuck by his side. Okay? So even though they may not have the healthiest dynamic of a relationship, right? The avoidant is going to go to where it's safe. And my behavior and who I am as a person, that safety was never going to exist without change. Okay? That safety was never going to happen without legitimate growth. The only way that you can build the kind of safety that an avoidant, the avoidant craves having that closeness, but are unwilling out of fear because their emotions have been wielded against them somehow in their life so many times. The things that they actually, when they open up and they let their deep feelings be known, they have been thrown in their face. And I may have even been probably in my trauma scape really possible. I probably exhibited behaviors more than once towards subject A that was doing that, whether I realized I was doing it in the moment or not. I really can't tell you, because when I get into the fight or flight mode and I was in trauma response, the choices I were making a lot of times came from a place that my very grounded, mentally sound self would not have even, it wouldn't have affected me. You know what I mean? But tell me that in all my relationships that have meant anything to me, that the person on the other side wouldn't expect me to always be there. When do I ever walk away? When do I ever give up? What kind of level of loyalty? So in that aspect of things, okay, it also was safe for him to get control of his emotional, feel like he could push me away like that, and really believe that I would always be there because, I mean, after 17 years of being friends, it's kind of how things went. It's like I never would have told him that I never wanted to talk to him again. I mean, I even said that there was always going to be a place in my life for him, no matter what happened between us. I didn't anticipate how much pain he was going to cause me, and he's not willing to own that. And that's where the real breakdown, no matter what the reasonings were, no matter what fancy labels you want to give it, the real breakdown comes to the fact that I was going to put up with being treated the way I was being treated, and his wife will. The thing is that if he doesn't realize how his behaviors are affecting others and are unwilling to learn, this dynamic will continue to cycle through his current marriage, his freaking relationships with his children. These people will eventually flip and want to put the distance and push him away because you're not going to you're not going to beat your head into a brick wall looking to be loved, no matter who it is. Not if it's your friend, your father, your mother, your fucking spouse. It doesn't matter. Eventually, that brain bleed is going to tell you you've had enough. And when people reach that is different for everyone. So assuming that someone will always be there waiting, let me tell you something, guys. Everybody should be growing and changing every fucking day. That is the goal of life, okay? Wake up tomorrow, be somebody different and better than you were yesterday, okay? Too many times we feel so content with how our life is going and so content with the way things are that we don't keep pushing ourselves to be better and different the next day because we're okay with where we are. But that's why then life has a way of fucking smacking you right in the fucking face and being like, hey, you know what? You comfortable like this? Let's shake it up a little bit. Keep us on our toes. It really does happen. Now, if you're constantly growing and changing, even in the comfortable, quiet moments of your life, all right, then when the shit hits the fan, because life is life and it will, bad things happen all the time, okay? You're gonna have different set of skills and tools in order to be able to survive it. And that's what it really boils down to. Well, most anxious attachment styles that have been as invested in relationships as I get, okay, I put up with my marriage for 24 years, and you're going to tell me that, my ex-husband wasn't avoidant? That's all he ever did. And I kept excusing it. And then when we really needed him and he didn't show up, boom, I finally walked away. Okay? The only thing is I walked right into a new scenario, which was a horrible choice on all accords. Not my finest moment. Okay. But that's where I made a mistake there. Which is why I haven't gone from subject A right back into, well, I'm just going to go back to my marriage, or right back into, I'm going to go start dating. There's a reason why I talk about the fact, and I talked about this, about enjoying being alone, and it wasn't easy, and it was hard, especially coming out of a relationship where I had been displaying this anxious attachment, okay? Wanting to be so, hold on to something so badly when there's no reason to. All right. It does nothing good for your emotional state of mind or your mental health or your well-being. All right. It's an unhealthy trait. And so I knew this, though. I knew that much. I may not have had all the pieces in a row as to why I was acting the way I was acting, but I knew I was acting unhealthily. And I pushed myself. That's why we moved down to the coast. I moved away from everybody. And if I was going to move away and get myself going on a path where I could grow and be healthier, I was definitely going to do it in a place that I felt would promote that. And since my life dream was to move to the ocean, that's why I made the crazy decision to literally move down to the ocean. I don't know what Parker's doing, but it's coming through on the stream.
I know. Yeah, I just was telling him to
Okay.
quiet.
So anyways, so the thing is that his freak out when I finally said, peace out, I'm done, most likely comes from exactly this belief that I was always going to be there willing to patch things up. And I think that if I had ever managed to go more than a month without talking to him, I think he would have started to be like, okay, maybe it's safe to re-enter that atmosphere. But he underestimated the fact that even though I was acting out the way that I was and it was messy and I was, but he didn't understand the fact that it was not me trying desperately to get him to react. It was me expressing myself. And there's a huge difference in that. I was letting the shit out and I was working through it. And as I was having the realizations and as I was fucking going through the work, yes, I reached out to him. Okay. And it was chances. I was giving him chances to explain himself. Let me be wrong. Tell me how I am wrong. That's what it really was. I don't want to understand you in this light, so give me a reason not to. And he didn't. He simply didn't. He ignored every one of them. And I think if I had ever gone more than a whole entire month, okay, then maybe I would have seen him. He would have reached out, maybe eventually. If what he says is true, if he was waiting, he was probably waiting for me to demonstrate that I could have enough self-control not to be unhinged, because that's what it was looking like to him. He took what he thought was clingy, unhinged, and, just unbalanced behaviors, assuming that it was my mental, not understanding me or who I am to the core. Okay? So what he was getting every month was a chance to change my mind and stop working towards walking away for good. And he didn't do anything with it. So when I finally decided, he has not gotten a wordy explanation. He will not. There will not be more emails sent. There will not be. None of this. I would never reach out. I thought about it. I was thinking about just because Halloween is coming up, and I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought about it because I was like, I have a heart and I have a way of feeling about things. And I thought about sending a postcard from from me, but just saying happy Halloween, because it used to be a holiday that we hung out together. We had a lot of good memories on it. And I sat and this has been rolling around in my head forever. And then I realized no, because when somebody treats you like you're not worth being in their life, don't try to be in their life at all. And although it's something that I feel is just who I am, because I'm not like, I'm not angry. I'm not vengeful. I'm not any of those things regarding how everything has happened. Okay. The only thing I was angry. I'm not anymore. The only thing I have been consistently is hurt, no matter what. Sad, definitely. Disappointed beyond measure. Okay. Disappointed because I thought he was something. He didn't realize who I was, and I thought he was something different than he was. So that's unfortunate. But that's sometimes just the way things go. But to think that I would always be ready to patch things up, I can see why anyone would think that. So here's my other PSA to all my lovely followers, not the ones that I'm not talking about you specifically over here on Twitch that give me all these rewatches, but I'm talking about the select few who want me so badly out of their life, but yet keep seeking my content, and it comes up and I see that they're watching. So let me give them a message, okay? Because here's the deal. It is right to have assumed that I would always be so forgiving that I'd be willing to patch something up. And let me tell you something. I am so forgiving. But where it breaks and what goes wrong is recognizing my self-worth and my peace. I can't even, it is so messed up that I can't think of scenarios. I can't even. Like, it would, I don't even know. I can't say never. I mean, if certain people of this turn around and wanted to take a certain amount of accountability, let's say, one of my in-laws was to contact me and tell me that, they recognize their behaviors and the way it may have affected me, and then turn around and really try. I can't say no, but I'll tell you one thing, I'll be damn skeptic, and my involvement will never look like it was. Just like if I were to try to repair my marriage. I'm never going to look like the wife I was that my husband got to know for all those years. That selfless dedication is gone. The only person I am selflessly dedicated to now is myself, because I have healed in that way. So because I have grown and I have changed, and because I have, this may have seemed like a plausible thing. And I wonder if Subject A sits over there and is like, oh, she'll reach out to me again. She'll do it. She'll do it. And how many times I said I was going to walk away and didn't, doesn't help that. And it's going to be a real hard, rude awakening. Because it will never, I already decided. I was like, I'm not even going to send no way I'm going to send a postcard. Why am I going to share any amount of this gigantic heart and love that I have with anybody that is willing to, misunderstand it, is committed to misunderstanding it, doesn't value it for what it is, doesn't afford me an ability, nobody, okay, this is true. The reason why my ex-husband freaked the fuck out is because he does not believe that I would be willing to be alone at all. Nobody has understood, and I kept telling everybody while I was healing, none of this is about anybody else. This is about me. This is about me figuring out how I can feel okay in my own life. And what that actually meant was learning how to definitely break the codependency. I was, in the beginning of my marriage, I was an anxious, codependent person. I grew into a secure attachment with slight codependency still there, and walked into this relationship with subject A a mess because all of it had been turned upside down and nothing I had worked so hard for in life seemed to be worth anything. Okay? But the fact that I had already done the work, it was just a matter of time till I re-caught up to myself, which I have. So all these people in my life that think I was always going to be there because I always was are in for a super weird, rude awakening. My ex-husband included. I am not always going to be there. And I live my life in a completely opposite fashion because I have lost so many people tragically and quickly. And you think that you have a life left to live and then they're gone, that I won't waste another moment of my breath or my life. If I were to die tomorrow, I'm going to die okay. All right? That's the way I live my life. And I won't waste my energy anymore. But that is something that I lost due to all the confusion of my trauma and the healing I needed to do. But now that that's back, the biggest thing that has changed on the other side of this is, I have a great relationship right now with my ex-husband. And every now and then, I've talked about it before where like I feel like emotionally invigorated. And I think that there's a chance that we can repair things. But here is the truth. We maybe could if my ex-husband was willing to accept that the wife he married for 24 years isn't the same anymore. The wife that made sure that everything was always, done to a certain way. I no longer have the drive to want to be that. Because when it came down to it, and I really needed my ex-husband, he avoided it. And so in all actuality, subject A pulling back the way he did, it was just triggering. That's why my brain would have associated with it as him he sat there and was so upset with the way my ex-husband treated me, right? And acted like that, but then it feels like he did the same thing. That's why. And I'm perfectly capable of accepting where my unbalanced, unhealthy behaviors may have caused things, and I will definitely always own that. And because I've spent so much time on this stream talking so much about subject A, this particular moment, I want to focus on this is a great look at the way that I was behaving that was unhealthy, that also led subject A to react in a lot of manners the way that he did. Now, does it make any of it okay? No, absolutely not. But here is the difference. One of us is changing, growing, and holding accountability and deciding that they're going to be a different, better person. The other one says, this is just how I am. And anybody that says, this is just how I am, is a red flag. Because it means that they're not willing to grow and change. And we should be doing that every single day of our life. We should always wake up tomorrow trying to be a little bit better than we were yesterday. We should always be wanting to learn new things, not happy with what we already know. And that is the real key to life happiness, is keeping yourself going forward in a way where you are literally maximizing, okay? You're maximizing your life experience at that point. And anybody that's not willing to do that, well, when they get slapped with something that life can hand you and they haven't been doing all the work in between, well, then they're not going to be that person. And so here's my problem, that no matter what, all of these relationships, because this is a huge change in my growth. The fact that I have flipped and been like reclaimed my self-worth and independence, okay? Because nobody is going to step into that role and get the same experience from me. So all these people I've built relationships with that expect that they know me so well, that they expect that they know how I'm going to behave, are going to be very sadly disappointed when it does not go the way that they think they can predict, because you can't predict me because I have grown and changed so much. And that should be the point. Predictable means cycling. When you become a predictable person that people think they can assume how you will always react, you have already been drawn into a cycle. And cycles happen when we aren't growing and changing. And we just keep repeating, and we live in a loop. I have grown outside of that loop. Mine has turned into like an infinity symbol now and is just going around in a different way. It's no longer a circle. It's an ever forward moving path of motion where I'm constantly going to keep making sure I'm better, which is what led me this morning. I was like, I think I just want to stay in bed. Then I open up YouTube and I end up on this and I hear this and I go, oh my God, I want to go stream. I want to share this with chat. I want to do a video on this, because another thing that I think is really important is that so many times when you go through a breakup or you go through a traumatic experience or you go through a divorce, you're going through any of these like relationship breaks, we'll call them, of any kind, okay? You know, there's a distance put in. So often, you know, we become so angry and hurt, and that becomes our main focus. We worry so much about, look at how much I focus on subject A's behavior. Why was he behaving the way he was? That's how this whole podcast basically started. I was trying to figure it out. Why was he treating me that way? Why? Only when I turned that light inward and said, why are you reacting to him the way you are actually? Only then did the true healing start, because that's where way it works. You got to grab a mirror, chat. You got to look at that shit, and you got to look at it hard. And you gotta realize, just because somebody's behaving and treating you in a manner that is unacceptable, and you have every reason to be hurt, angry, sad, whatever it is, does not give you the right to react and lose your composure and treat them, you know, just whatever they do, you can do better. Nope, that's not the way to go about it. Okay, the true happiness and the true healing lies in having the fucking strength and ability to walk away and not always be at the
things
ready.
up, no matter how distant they become. It's an illusion of security that convinces them they can pull away without consequence. They believe the anxious partner's need for closeness means they'll never actually leave, because for so long the anxious person doesn't. They stay, they fight, they try harder. And every time they do, the avoidant grows more certain that their space, their detachment, their silences will be tolerated indefinitely. This assumption builds a false sense of power. The avoidant tells themselves, I can retreat, I can shut down, I can hold back, and they'll still be here when I'm ready. It becomes almost like a game of tug of war where the avoidant drops the rope entirely, confident that the anxious partner will never let go of their side. That expectation becomes a comfort blanket for the avoidant. They don't have to risk too much vulnerability.
So every single time I was sending him a message, every monthly email that he got when I would lose my emotional composure, I seriously blame premenopause, chat, okay? But every time I would lose my emotional composure, all right, and lose my emotional regulation and send him a message, it was just telling him I was still hanging onto that rope, that I hadn't dropped it yet. So he had no reason to step outside his comfort zone or try to do anything about it, because I was still there.
Because they think the anxious partner will cover the gap with their persistence.
When you write,
Oh,
your
fuck
tone
yeah.
influences how readers respond. With Grammarly, just highlight your text and type.
Grammarly.
But the truth is, this dynamic isn't about
I
real
love
power.
Grammarly.
It's about imbalance. The avoidant misinterprets loyalty as weakness, mistaking someone's determination to stay as proof they have nowhere else to go. What they don't see is that the anxious partner isn't powerless. They're choosing to keep trying. That choice may come from fear at first, but
Yep.
it's still a choice. And choices can change.
Choices
when the
can
anxious
change.
partner eventually realizes that their constant effort is costing them more than the relationship gives back, the entire structure the avoidant relies on collapses in an instant. The irony is that the avoidant builds their identity around independence and control.
So this is why it would be so confusing, because independence and control, avoidants still want to have control of a situation. Is how they keep themselves from getting hurt. I was a very big control freak in the first 10 years of my marriage. Okay, because insecurities will lead us to do that. So, but that now the reason I'm bringing this up is you can understand what narcissism is all based on control as well. And I know how you feel about it. Again, I'm going to reiterate that. I'm just saying that it wouldn't be fair and I wouldn't be me if I didn't shine a light on all the possibilities. And I've spent so much time going off about how subject A is such a narcissist, because that's what his behaviors may have indicated. But since I found out about this avoidance stuff, I've been, you know, I don't go seeking it out. I'm not doing this every day. I actually, on the real, this is crazy. This is how this happened. I had a nightmare last night. It's what woke me up this morning. Okay. And it was about subject A. And I woke up and I felt just not as balanced and grounded. Then I went to my horoscopes, because you know how I am about my astrology, and that didn't help either. But basically, I just didn't feel so centered. And I was just scrolling on I was going to check the YouTube channel and whatever, and this popped up. Obviously, because, you know, of the time I've spent watching things of this nature. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to listen to this. And then listening to this just like completely. My deal is this. In the end, whatever happened between subject A and I just know that my soul has never felt so shattered by anyone in my life. I'm okay now. I'm actually better. If I'm going to be real, who I came out on the other side of this is better than who I was before. And I was very comfortable with being an awesome human being before this experience. Okay, that is how I viewed myself. That is what I thought of myself, and I never doubted it. Now it's like a whole different level of self-confidence, self-worth. Like, I get it. And I understand my flaws, and I understand how I may, but none of it makes the actions and choices and behaviors acceptable to me. And so what I was doing is desperately grasping to try to get subject A to give me a reason, just give me a reason not to give up on him. And he failed to. But then, well, eventually, that won't work out either.
But their control is built on a shaky foundation, the anxious partner's willingness to endure. Once that willingness runs out, the avoidance illusion crumbles. All of the distance they created, all of the walls they built, suddenly become cages, leaving them alone with no one reaching across the gap anymore. They're not in control, they're exposed. This assumption that the anxious will never leave also keeps the avoidant from growing. If they believe the anxious partner will tolerate anything, they have no incentive to step up.
Which means that if his wife is an anxious attachment and she's there right now, this cycle will just keep going because he won't get better because he's comfortable. Which would explain why I made him feel so unsure, why I made him feel so uncomfortable, because I wasn't willing. I didn't just shut my trap and do tiny little boxes, okay? I fucking never shut up. And it probably overwhelmed him because I was literally shining a light on his issues and he didn't want to fucking deal with it. What'd you say?
I said, tell me about it.
Wow.
To communicate better or to face their own fears of intimacy. The anxious partner becomes both their safety net and their excuse. I don't need to change because they're not going anywhere. In reality, that stagnation is the very thing that makes the anxious person eventually go somewhere. The avoidant, convinced of their dominance, unknowingly writes the ending of the story. What makes this dynamic even harsher is that the anxious partner often gives countless warnings. They say they're unhappy, they express their needs, they cry out for connection. But because the avoidant is so certain they'll never truly walk away, those warnings get dismissed as emotional noise. It's only when the anxious stops asking, stops pleading, stops checking.
So basically, what we know, okay, in subject A's situation, that I've seen all of that. His wife has done all of that. And here's the deal. There's a lot of reasons besides my mental health, you know, and besides all the therapy that I went through, the reason why it only took me 10 months to finally get the clue and be like, peace out. Okay. I guess we could argue that it took 17 years, maybe, because he, like I said, he never even, why did I even think we could still be friends after? I mean, he never even showed an interest in how we were doing after we went to Alabama. So false senses of thinking I knew somebody, right? But for her, I've literally been there and watched this shit happen. Okay. And watched her be ignored. And the truth is, eventually she's probably going to get to a point where it's not enough. And then if that happens, where's he going to be left if he doesn't get his shit together? And it's none of my business. And honestly, this is just me like looking at the whole situation. And I'm just hypothetically looking at how these kinds of psychological, I guess, definitions, if you will, literally when we start, I mean, people are messy in general. And you start interacting and you're trying to get, even just two people interacting with one another. Now you build a family and you've got all these different entities. Okay. The thing is that everybody's like, for her, what can she do? She's got 4 kids to take care of. She may have already checked out in her head, but the day those kids can take care of themselves, just like imagine, because the day my kids were old enough to finally take care of themselves and my ex-husband pulled his avoidant crap, what the hell did I do? I walked the fuck away well, I say just like that. No, it's the hardest fucking thing I ever did. I was fucking, it fucking shattered me. And I did it for the wrong reasons. I did it because I didn't think I was good enough. I wasn't capable of doing exactly what I should have been able to do in order to be the best wife for my husband. That's why I walked away. Not because of his actions, but because I couldn't control my own. And that's something my ex-husband never understood. But eventually, that was me. But in this case, the anger, the resentment, the things that lead up, yeah, without change. I mean, yikes. The future, like, don't push somebody who's willing to put up and accept you for who you are and try to communicate with you no matter who they are. Don't push them to a point where they quit asking, because that is the moment. when they just decide that they're going to accept it, because I did that with my ex-husband, it will create this false sense of security in anybody. And the minute that the other person gives a reason to really like push the bar, that shit's going to shatter and it's over.
That the avoidant finally realizes those warnings were not empty. By then, it's too late. The anxious has found strength in silence, and the avoidant's false sense of security dissolves. At its core, this whole belief system is a miscalculation. The avoidant confuses dependence with devotion. They assume proximity equals permanence. But human beings don't stay where they feel unseen forever. Even the most persistent, loyal anxious partner has a breaking point.
And here would be a big difference. This is where personality plays in. We all know, I'm not afraid to admit it. I love to be the center of attention. It's something I do enjoy. Do I have to make myself the center of attention? No. Am I good at it? Yes. But I do love. I like to be in the spotlight. I like to, I was I always hosted parties, and before life happened to us, where Parker was diagnosed with autism and things had to change focus, and I couldn't be as social as I used to. I was known for the parties I would throw in high school. Like, I've just always been that type of person that I won't sit quietly in the shadows ever, right? But his wife is not that person. She's very quiet in the shadows and will just do the things she does. Even, I never looked like I didn't do anything to get noticed. But when I felt good about choices I made in life or things, that's where a lot of my writing stems from. Like, I wanted to be an example, make somebody's day better, promote positivity and everything. That would be where I took my love for being in the center. It did not change why I did things, because that was true to who I am as a person. So now you got to ask yourself, because it's not just as easily defined as avoidant and anxious. Anxious partners that have different personalities are going to take their anxious attachment and going to have different thresholds, almost like a spectrum of what they are willing to do, what they are willing to put up with, what they are going to do, whatever. And those with things like abandonment trauma are going to stick by the longest. But the difference is you don't even have to get the help, and you don't even have to grow in this case to end up changing this and flipping the script. Because what really happens is even the most anxious partner is eventually so depleted and so out of energy that they are no longer willing to fight, and they will walk away. And that's the point. So it's inevitable. Now, how long it takes is different. How much a person's willing to put up with is different. But when you get somebody that is comfortable enough, where you've got an avoidant who is capable of pushing somebody away enough, and a person who is anxious will accept being pushed away, see, that's the thing. That's where the difference really lies. I am not one to accept that. Communication, healthy communication, growth, understanding, truth, honesty. These things were always really big to me in relationships, because even when I separated from my ex-husband, I never lied to him about what was going on with subject A and I at all. And it was messy, but I had to conduct myself in a manner where I had certain things that I just was not willing to compromise. I had already compromised so much about myself. I was not willing to compromise certain aspects of who I was. So even though I was making choices on one side that really seemed like it's almost contradictory, I still had an extreme dedication to carrying myself in a certain manner that I could live with myself, which is something that I truly live by. And I had already made enough, I honestly did. I justified the affair because I believed he was so sad and miserable, and believed that, I saw it one night. I literally saw her I've never seen somebody treat somebody so cruelly. He was really upset, and she was mean. She came out onto the back porch, and oh my God, I don't know what happened. I never know what happened. I never found out. All I know is he was crying, and she was nastiest person I could ever imagine. Not behaved in a manner that made me go, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way that there's love there, because nobody would treat somebody. And I watched it happen right in front of my own eyes. Here's a question I've had over these last, my healing growth and all these months of silence. What happened really? And did he instigate that to look like the victim in front of me? That's the things I question, because I can't trust anything anymore, right? But the point is that that's why, but that's one of the reasons why I truly believed that he was actually being abused and that the family, like, and I was worried about the kids and I was worried about him because I didn't know, but her behavior was also unbalanced. Okay. If you remember when we got there, I was like, she's changed so much. I was worried she was like, there was something wrong in her brain. Meanwhile, I'm there literally with something wrong in my brain. And so if I'm that batshit fucking messed up, okay, we'll just go. I don't like using the term crazy, but it felt like it. It feels like it. You know, Chad, if you ever hear me say when I was batshit crazy, I'm not trying to put everybody that experiences trauma into a group of crazy, but here's what I am referring to. I felt internally crazy. Not what everybody else thought about me. So the recording he played for me that his wife calls me the crazy lady. You right, girl? You right? All right? I was nuts. I felt it too. All right? I'm not going to argue that shit. I was definitely the crazy lady. Because he played a recording for me once where she was like, you went and slept with the crazy lady. You know. Yeah. Okay.
Unbelievable.
When they reach it, the avoidant is often left stunned because the very partner they thought would never leave is the one who walks out with a kind of quiet finality that can't be reversed.
So I finally went to allstate.com.
You know, have you
It
ever-
was so easy
Oh
to
my
switch.
God.
You know what? He chose to record different things that he doesn't know I know he recorded
When
with
the
me,
anxious
so.
partner finally decides to walk
Bro,
away,
okay,
it rarely
so
comes with fireworks.
I'm,
There's no dramatic
I've been, because just so for people who don't know, I'm listening to this video on stream, but Andromeda has been talking in between the points, and
Oh, shit, I
let's
didn't
be
think about
honest,
that.
hearing her more than once in your ear might drive you to insanity. Let's be honest with that. So I'm doing this thing where I'm juggling, muting and unmuting the stream in between Andromeda talking, so I can
Why don't
listen
you
to
just
her
mute me
and,
in Discord and then respond to me when you hear me through the stream?
Okay, I've only been up for like 2 hours. Shut up. Why? What?
What is that?
I'm hearing you now.
What the hell was that?
Oh, actually, never mind. I lied.
Why did duckies just come through the fucking browser source?
I don't know. I just realized I don't want to freaking listen to stream all the time either, because I can hear myself, which is even worse than hearing you.
Well, you should be able to just easily mute the stream when you want to talk.
Nah.
Okay, are you good now?
Yeah, I'm good now. I just want
What I'm hearing you say is shut the fuck up, Andromeda, and pause in between your pausing and your talking.
Or just let me know when you play the video, because I have no idea when the video gets replayed.
I'm playing the video.
All right, thank you.
exit, no shouting match, no slamming of doors. Instead, it happens quietly, almost invisibly, after years of inner wrestling. The anxious partner has spent so long over-functioning, pouring themselves into the relationship and chasing after reassurance that when the decision comes, it isn't fueled by anger, it's fueled by exhaustion. They've burned through every reserve of energy trying to make it work, and the realization hits that nothing they do will ever change the
I'm pausing the video. Because what I was going to say about this is that, now see, this is why I go too fast for everybody in the world, because now I've already lost my train of thought. No, the point is that this is why Subject A would have thought I was going to be vengeful, or that I was angry, or that I was making the choices I was making out of that kind of space of mind. But what he doesn't realize is I just got exhausted trying, and he was no longer worth trying to salvage anything for. It wasn't worth trying to keep the friendship or whatever relationship we ever did have, or the communication. None of it mattered anymore, because I had beaten my head against a brick wall for 10 fucking months trying to make it happen. And it was clear that it wasn't going to happen. And only once I chose to accept it did he decide to reach out. And by then, he couldn't even do it in a respectful manner. I mean, he tried at first, but because I didn't react the way he wanted me to, okay? And the way that he should have anticipated because of my previous behavior, he believed that reaching out the way that he did, and when he did, that it was going to hook me right back into it. And when it didn't, that we watched him implode. And that's why he became so unhinged in the messaging and the everything. Because I wasn't reacting. He had lost control. And as it said, again, avoidants want control too. They think they have control of protecting their emotional space. And let's face it though, no matter what, whether it's avoidant personality disorder or he just has an avoidant attachment style, I am a full on, commitment based, loyal. I am going to give it my all before I give up. But when I reach the point where I believe I need to give up, it would take such a significant level of demonstration of change in a person before I would reopen that door. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to reopen that door just because some good words are spoken or some things. That door would only be reopened, and it would only be half as open as it ever had been before because of the ways I have grown and changed. And that will be for everybody moving forward in my life. Nobody's ever going to have that full. So here's what happens. Basically, if you really want my opinion, between my marriage and my my relationship with subject A, between those two things, those two men were the longest relationships in my life, no matter what. Friendships, marriage, whatever. Like, they were both. And the thing is that they both believed they knew me. And neither one of them noticed how I was growing and changing. So I was literally setting both of them off with my growth, by the way. And the thing is that what subject A didn't realize is with my ex-husband, I just didn't care anymore. I literally, by the time I reached that point, it was like, I really dropped the rope with my ex-husband. Okay. And with subject A, I've been holding on to it until just before my birthday. I finally really let it go. And then, so he had one last opportunity, one shot to show me respect and demonstrate an understanding, and instead freaked out and told me I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at it, all the way down to telling me how horrible I am, how I always behave a certain way, how, I'm manipulative, I'm controlling, I spin things for my own narrative, and then says happy birthday and deletes it because I don't respond fast enough. Not realizing I had seen it. So I opted to respond because I am who I am. At that time, I opted to respond and say thank you. But that's what really, him saying happy birthday to me and me not saying thank you right away, huge break in my pattern. We both know how my manners are like number one in life. And I will acknowledge somebody and say thank you. Yeah, I didn't get a thank you from him when I sent him his birthday. I was thinking, this is what I got to thinking of. When I sent him his birthday postcard and said happy birthday, I mean, he never responded to me. What did he think that said to me? But he could text me the way he did. So I'm sorry. You can't say thank you. I tried to stay away from it. I sent a postcard from down here and I said, I hope you have a happy birthday. And I sent that shit off. Right. And it was never acknowledged any more than any of my emails were ever acknowledged. In fact, the last email, he said, I'm not even going to read this, which just is because it was full of stuff that he probably already did read that he didn't like to hear. And don't get me wrong. I went through a lot of anger and pain in this process. I said things that would put anybody on edge and make them their red flags. All right. I am capable of waving red flags as well. I recognize that. But the real truth is that it was all part of a process for me. See, growing and changing, and I was working my way out of it. I did display unhealthy, toxic behaviors in some ways. Okay. And that is what was scaring the shit out of me more than anything. Because those unhealthy, toxic behaviors I was displaying, I already conquered that shit a long fucking time ago. And what bothered me the most is why the hell was I losing control and exhibiting that kind of bullshit again when I had grown so far past it. That's what really caused me to, finally get it and put the light on myself and be like, what the fuck is your issue, bitch? Like, get a damn mirror here, because whatever he's doing doesn't matter. Fuck that shit, all right? Yes, his behavior has hurt you, but whatever his behaviors are right now, who cares why? Who the fuck cares why? What is it doing to you, and why are you acting like such a damn, and I'm sorry, I felt like a psycho. I was losing control of my behavior in a way that I thought it was just like I thought so many things, like just the strong connection I thought I had with him. Number one. Okay. I thought, that it was, there was a lot of guilt involved because I was aware that I had lost so much of my mental health, emotional composure during the time that he and I were, whatever you want to call it. Well, I was a dirty whore. Okay, I can't call it anything else, chat. I'm not proud of it. And I was a dirty closet whore. Okay, so we're just going to stick with that. I've learned to accept it. I'm not going to change its name for something else because that's what it was during the time. That man has a wife and children and I was sleeping with him. That makes me exactly that. Okay. The point is how to go forward so I never make those kind of fucking dumbassery choices again in my life. All right. That is all I care about now. But the fact is, okay, so I was a dirty whore and now now I've looked in the mirror and I realized that, and I'm learning how to not be a dirty whore anymore. I mean, it happened once in my life. Okay. So also this was not a cycling habit. All right. Never cheated in my marriage. 24 years. All right. I'm just like, just need to be clear and explain myself here because I want to, this is a hot button topic that nobody wants to talk about on the internet. You are not going to find the other girls coming out of the woodwork. Most of them are going to be snowed by something. I'm going to tell you, I believe at least 50% of them. I'm going to just go there because they're probably, whoever's the one that's got the two people is the one that's the most unhinged and unbalanced because that shouldn't have been acceptable for them either. Okay. Now, those of us that either accept or stay by that or find themselves in this fucking stupid trio, fucking stupid ass shit, okay? There's something wrong with everybody involved. That's the truth. Everybody is fucked up in some way. All right. So because otherwise, if somebody cheats, you walk away. All right. And by the way, it's not like it was a one-time whoopsie. It was a 10-month courtship. He even called me his girlfriend. So we're not talking about a moment of weakness, a mistake that somebody is truly repentant for either. We are talking about, the morning before he goes out on his fucking family vacation, getting up at 4 o'clock or being up at 4 o'clock in the morning and coming over. And now I realize he spent the time with me because he needed to feel better about himself because he felt guilty about all of his actions. But he came over to my house in the morning before he left to go on family vacation, just saying, these are unhinged choices. My acceptance, fucking not okay. His action, not okay. The fact that his wife is now accepted that this went on and is, wherever they're at, I don't know, it's none of my business, but probably not a healthy choice either, honey. Not, like, unless there's growth and change, okay, then things just run the risk of happening again. That's the way I look at it. So, but the most true thing in all the time that all of this shit was occurring is what was she, 15 then? When the 15-year-old was walking through the house, and I think it was Logan who asked her, are you okay or what's wrong? And she was like, all the adults in this house have lost their damn mind. Fucking preach. Yes, that. 110% could not agree better. Smart kid, that one. Anyways, so now I'm going to go into talking about the avoidance pattern. I'm going to press play on this again. I know we're dragging this out, but this has been such an eye-opening thing for me this morning because, first of all, I'll tell you this, chat, to be able to watch this video and understand and recognize my behavior and where it was coming from in a different light, because I guess I hadn't gotten this far to realizing I knew that I was acting toxically. I knew the things, but because I had worked my way in my marriage up to being not the anxious attachment that I was when I got married, it didn't even dawn on me. I knew I had a problem with codependency and I thought that's what it was. But no. Because of the trauma and everything that I had gone through, the version of me that entered into the relationship with subject A was absolutely anxious attachment. And there's no way it wasn't gonna be. So, because I wasn't healthy enough to be anything else in the moment. That's the real problem.
Avoidance pattern. That moment is like a switch flipping. Suddenly, the chase doesn't feel worth it anymore. What's so striking about this shift is how calm it looks from the outside. The avoidant, who is used to being pursued, expects a storm. They expect begging demands or tears. Instead, they're met with quiet acceptance. The anxious partner no longer tries to explain why they're hurt or push for more communication. They simply stop. They stop asking if everything's okay. They stop double texting. They stop.
So when he sent me the last message he sent me, he was like, you know what? I'm done. You just won't stop running your mouth or whatever the fuck he said. And then he's like, any future interactions are going to be blocked. I'm not giving you the time of day. Have a nice life, basically. My response, thumbs up emoji.
Showing up with endless patience. That stillness can be deafening because it
Usually
signals something
pages.
deeper than frustration. It signals a decision. The calmness is what makes this exit so final. In the past, when the anxious threatened to leave, it was often a cry for help, a way to test whether the avoidant cared enough to step forward.
Okay, I'm going to pause it again because this is literally what I was talking about earlier, okay? So when I was, every time I was sending him the monthly emails when I lose my emotional composure again, I'm seriously blaming this shit on premenopause. Because I mean, it's like premenopause is like getting inflicted with the hormones of pregnancy almost at for like 3 to 7 days. All right. So if any of you out there have been pregnant, or you've parents who have been around a woman who's pregnant, and whatever it is, you've known a pregnant person, you've lived with them, you've shared their space, and you know how quickly they could go from eating fucking ice cream and crying to throwing the canister of ice cream across the fucking room. True story. It is craziness in their head. I mean, it's just, you get hormonally unbalanced. And so what usually was happening to me is once a month I would lose my emotional composure and be so fucking incredibly sad that I would reach out to subject A. And sometimes that sadness came across as anger. Sometimes it came across as compassion, which made me look incredibly unbalanced as well. But all it was is exactly what this guy just said. It said that it was me testing the waters to see if he cared enough at all. And it wasn't about trying to elicit, like he thinks. I can see why he thinks that now. But it was not about trying to elicit a response for him, because that wasn't it. It was me putting out feelers and saying, like, this is how I feel is either going to matter enough to you or it's not. And the lack of response repeatedly taught me that whatever I was feeling did not matter to him. That's what it showed me. Okay. Now, what I really was doing is expressing myself emotionally, high emotional emails sent to subject A, who is obviously, can we at least agree that he has an avoidant attachment style IG? I mean, I think I'm not clearing him of narcissism or any of that, but can you see how this applies to him?
Yeah.
So, okay. So maybe he's a narcissistic avoidant person. I don't know. I don't know what can exist. All I know is this right here matches exactly what has happened between he and I. Okay. And so, at least from my side of things, definitely. But so anyways, I kept putting that out, but he would have seen it as a desperation, a clinginess, as still me being unbalanced, which I can understand that now. I can understand that. And this is why communication is so fucking important, chat. You cannot have any kind of relationship though without communication. Anybody who's not willing to just ask the questions, this is what I told my ex-husband. I said, don't even try to, because when I went to Union Underground, I had to ask my ex-husband, are you worried I'm going to go meet subject A? I shouldn't have to. My ex-husband, if he was thinking it, should have turned around and been like, I'm feeling hesitant, or whatever he might have been feeling, whatever his feelings were, worried, whatever it might be, whatever, that you're actually going to go meet him and give me the opportunity to respond. And if you are in a relationship where no matter what that response is, you are going to question it, then you shouldn't be in that relationship anyway. If, if my ex-husband, let's say I had been planning to go to Union Underground and meet subject A, if I hadn't given that information to my ex-husband, I reiterate, then if he would have asked me, I wouldn't have lied to him. I never in our relationship, truth and honesty were so fucking important to me. I wouldn't have lied. And I have proven that over 24 years of marriage. Okay? So here's the thing, though. That's where things get sticky, chat, because subject A proved to me that he can lie. So, all right, I'll play it again.
But when the anxious truly reaches their breaking point, there's no performance left. They don't need to prove anything. They don't need to threaten. They simply reclaim their energy and choose themselves. And once that choice is made, it's not about punishment, it's about freedom. This kind of departure carries a power the avoidant never saw coming. For so long, the anxious seemed trapped in a cycle of pleading and pursuing. To the avoidant, that cycle looked endless, which made them believe they had the upper hand. But when the anxious finally breaks free, the balance of power shifts in an instant. The person who once appeared weak by clinging is suddenly the strongest in the room, the one who had the courage to walk away from what wasn't serving them. And what makes it even more unshakable is that this isn't an impulsive decision.
Hell no.
It comes after years of analysis,
10 months for
compromise, and effort. The anxious partner doesn't just wake up one morning and decide to quit. They have already tried everything more.
Okay, I'm going to pause it because what I said for me it was only 10 months. No, actually, I come through I analyzed our whole 17 years of friendship before I made the choice to finally be like, I'm done. Now, the 10 months that he and I were crossing those lines definitely weighed heavier than any. But I did this. I just didn't spend years analyzing, but I analyzed years, just to be clear.
Communication, more patience, more forgiveness. They've gone back after every fight, reassured after every withdrawal, and bent themselves in ways that left them exhausted. By the time they walk away, they're certain.
Are you researching dental implants?
There's a lot of dental offices that'll talk about
Yes, I
doing their teeth.
Man, how they know?
They know there's nothing left to salvage because they already tried to salvage it 100 times before. That level of certainty makes the decision irreversible. For the avoidant, this calm exit can feel like betrayal. They're used to seeing the anxious as the one who always fights for the relationship. When that fight disappears, they're left facing the emptiness of their own withdrawal habits. The anxious is gone, not in anger, but in peace. And peace is scarier than rage because rage
totally
can be
missing
reasoned
chat.
with
Sorry,
calmed
chat, I'm not
down
trying to
or
ignore you.
forgiven. Peace means the door is closed and there's no need to open it again. This calm, final departure is what makes the anxious partner's choice so powerful. It's not loud, but it is absolute. It's the kind of ending that doesn't leave room for negotiation because it isn't about convincing the avoidant of anything anymore. It's about reclaiming self-respect and choosing a life where love doesn't feel like a constant chase. Once that realization lands, the anxious partner doesn't look back and the avoidant is left to grapple with the silence they never thought would come. The moment the anxious
Lucky him that I can't stop talking and I'm a streamer. No wonder he fucking watches my shit. I'm just saying. I mean, at least he can still, it would be very silent. And it's going to get more silent. I mean, the reason I'm live this morning is because I'm too old to go to the beach again. I'm going to have to give myself one day off. By the way, hello to the new chatters. I'm sorry. I hope you're still here. The way that my screen is currently set up, because I'm missing a whole bunch of my equipment, I literally couldn't see chat. And this particular one, usually I have a chat board, but because this is the different scene setting, I'm not catching those. But welcome. I don't know how you found it, but it's a whole hodgepodge of information over here. But anyways, what I was going to say is that's where I might even get the idea that he still treated me like a supply and made me feel like, because it doesn't matter. He's got pictures, he's got videos, he's got anything he wants if he needs to, have my energy. He doesn't need to watch the streams, but he could. He told me once that he'd always be able to find me, for a while that kept me like wanting to go online because I just was like, I don't even want to share my life. Now I just don't care. Let them do whatever. I don't really care because this is who I am. I've always been this person. I've always turned around. I'm a content creator. I'm an artist. This is what I do. And I have gotten to a point where I've learned so much about psychology, I was going to say psychological well-being, but psychology in general, human behaviors, and coupled with my actual life experience, this is what was going to be best for me to be my best person, is to go to where my heart is, to go to where my home is, and my home and my heart is in content creation of some kind, preferably being a writer. But I obviously love the speaking. So, there's that too. And one of the biggest things that kept me and what I knew in my codependency and everything is I felt like, I was losing the people to share my life with because all my friends that were falling by the wayside and all the, like the people I used to call when I was really excited about life, or the people that I used to call when I wanted to cry about life, they're all gone now. But what were they doing for me really, other than just listening? So that is how the podcast got started. I don't need them to listen to me. Honestly, I just need to be able to talk it out. And what if I do that and people are listening, even if one listens? That's why IG's always here in all of these. That's why he's always got a spot, because I'm really even just talking to him. It doesn't even matter. But I'm talking and I'm sharing my thoughts and my processes. Because in the end of the day, if you had to ask me, what did you really want to do with your whole life, Andromeda? And I always say I wanted to move. My 2 life goals were to write my life story and move to the ocean. I say that over and over. But if we were going to tack another thing onto that, it would be help people. That's all I've ever wanted to do. Help people be better versions of themselves. Help people want to fight hard enough to live the trials, to live through and learn how to come out of the trials in life. And life can hand us some pretty heinous bullshit. People have some serious experiences that others could never even dream of. And to lose yourself in those moments of emotional infliction and to get lost is a tragedy to me, because life is precious and everybody deserves to be able to live it in a manner where it's not miserable. And so my third goal would have been, and this is what led me to get into trouble in life repeatedly, okay? And why I really was hesitant and resistant to my change. How can I stop helping people? Well, that's where the beauty is. It balanced out. What I'm doing here, processing my thoughts live, going live and talking about this stuff, sharing just my overall reaction to these things, other people may find themselves in a position where they are confused as well. And maybe my words will resonate with them. And even if it's only one, you know what? At least these people are looking for help. What I used to do is go find people I cared about and think that I could inspire them. Okay, when they weren't looking for my assistance, they didn't want my advice, and they weren't even looking to heal and be better. Okay, I just thought that I could show them that that was the best way because I cared so much about them that I could show them a better way to experience life. And that was my goal. And it got me eaten alive. But here on the internet, people actually Google this shit to find the keywords that go into my streams are chosen. If I'm on the beach, it's the beach. If it's about Gunner, it's Gunner. But if it's about this kind of shit where we are processing and we are learning about things that may affect our mental health or the relationships that we have in life, okay, people are looking for that help. So the only people listening to me are people who are finding me because they themselves want to get better. It's like the perfect trifecta. I get to get well because I get to not hold all my stuff in. I'm not over investing myself in people who don't want my help. I get to possibly help others, and I'm living on the beach. And yes, I am writing my life story. It's happening. But the other side, I'm going to put the whole link to this because I know we keep pausing. And for those of you that might, I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and this is going to be put in because YouTube does like these videos. They like the ones that are structured and reactive like this. So these kind of ones definitely go up on YouTube. My ones, hey, I'm shooting the shit and I just want to talk with you, chat, because I went to the beach and saw baby sea turtles. Those ones stay on Twitch only. Okay. But I guess that's my point. It's that finding those self-help resources is great, and what you're going to do with them. So if people find themselves upon my content and, and it makes a change and they start seeking this out and they start learning and they start healing and they start getting better and their life gets happier, that is so fucking awesome. Even if I've done nothing at all but plant a seed that causes them to be inspired to change something. Okay, if that's what my content does, then thank God for that, because that's what that will literally make everything I want to be as a human being true. Okay, I get to sit here and talk and help people. I get to live my life and I get to do my dreams and I get to do all of it. So that's why I do it, Anyways, okay, we're moving along now because we're almost halfway through this video.
Anxious partner finally leaves. The avoidant is often left in shock. For so long, they've believed that distance, withdrawal, or silence would be tolerated indefinitely. They thought the anxious person's need for closeness would outweigh any frustration, that no matter how far they pulled back, the anxious would always come chasing after them. When that chasing stops, the avoidant experiences a jarring disconnect between what they expected and what's actually happening. It feels like the rug has been pulled out from under them. They're blindsided because the dynamic they relied on, the one where the anxious always reaches, suddenly disappears without warning. Part of the reason it feels so shocking is that the avoidant misread every previous attempt at communication. The anxious gave endless signals along the way: the pleas for connection, the repeated "I need to talk," the tears, the late night messages begging for reassurance. But because those signals had always been followed by forgiveness or reconciliation, the avoidant stopped taking them seriously. They assumed that no matter how intense the complaint, it would end with the anxious settling back into the relationship. By the time the anxious actually leaves...
Okay, I paused it again, because can you imagine if this is true? Because so far, I am everything this guy says about anxious attachment. Nailed it. That's me. Sorry. It was me. It's not me anymore.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, it's not me anymore. But if that's true...
Got better.
Yeah, I got better. But my behaviors, if that's what this was telling him, that means that, basically, his last freak out on me most likely came from exactly the same place that my initial freakouts were coming for him. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? What just happened? It's like that hot cold. It's like Uno reverse card, bitch, honestly. No matter where it was coming from, the only difference is he acted the way he did and just, shut down and ghosted. And I took it as discard, but what if it was ghosting? Because he needed space, right? Because he's let's just work, again, hypotheticals, right? It doesn't really matter, because here's where the thing is, my behaviors taught him. that I'd never give up. And when have I? When do I? And now, congratulations, Subject A. You taught me when to walk away. You taught me when to give up. You taught me not to give myself to people. And I hate to say it, but not only do I forgive you, thank you. Because the person I'm going to be on the other side of this is so fucking amazing. Because I'm stronger than I've ever been. I'm healthier than I've ever been. And quite frankly, if it hadn't been for encountering Subject A, I can't say that would have ever been a thing. You know, we got it all wrong. We sat around that table all the time talking about how come God put him in my life, because I believe that kind of shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
We weren't wrong. God did put him in my life. And God put me in his. He had a choice too, by the way. All of this would have been very different. But he didn't make the same choices. He didn't make the choices. See, I really do believe that no matter what the universe believes, that we come up to forks in the road and we have choices. And when we really are, you know, maybe struggling with our level of happiness in life or what we want or, you know, whatever, that opportunities come up and it is usually fear that causes us to miss them. The irony here, though, is that all I knew is that I felt that everything was happening for a reason and I just couldn't tell what it was. Lo and behold, it was to make me stronger, better, and more capable. And the real other sad thing about this is I am better and healthier, okay? But even my ex-husband, like it's never going to be, what people experienced from me before this most recent growth is going to be precious because it'll never happen to that level again. I can't say never because now that I'm healthy, I'm going to be around people who are probably healthier and you never know. Life has a funny way of working out. But all I know is the loyal, dedicated, self-sacrificing version that gave everybody chance after chance after chance is gone. Any chance that anybody would ever get to be involved in my life will be met with hesitance if I should reopen that door ever. And I'm talking about like if I reopen the door to my ex-husband and try to work on my marriage, and that's what we're doing. Because I mean, we right now, it's just like we're existing. We're working through things. I have no way of knowing where that could go. But all I'm going to say is it's going to take a lot. Because that door even being open, the door even being open that much, I honest to goodness can tell you right now that if we didn't have children, that may not have gotten open either. He got his foot in the door, all right? Because his behavior at one time was enough for me to walk the fuck away from that too. Subject A, well, first of all, I don't think that he'll ever be capable of actually conducting himself in a respectful, healthy enough manner that would even let me, you know, answer the door, let alone open it again. Okay? I just don't. It's been proven. Like these last messages I've gotten, like he does not care. He's whatever he's doing. Oh, I'm not hurt. You're just fucking don't stop running your mouth. Like, I mean, literally one day, I'll share this shit with you. It'll probably be behind memberships though, like I said, but these particular ones, all right, are something. And so I hadn't really committed to the fact that I would ever share them because the thing is that I wouldn't want somebody putting all my level of crazy put out there like exactly in that fashion. And he literally does go from trying to be, you know, nice and we're gonna, you know, like trying to explain himself. And I've already given up and I'm like, I'm not available for any of this conversation. And then he just spirals. And it goes from, I would never want to lose a friend to you stupid bitch won't stop running your mouth pretty much. Okay. And I hope I never talk to you again. You know, like in a matter of 6 messages. 6 messages that went with like, I Uno reverse carded it. Right. So, you know, but here's the deal. Now that I'm on this side of things, and now that I've reached this level of mental stability, I'm never going to be as emotionally invested in those people again, most likely. Even if I let them back in my life, they're going to be at such an arm's length because I know what they're capable of. And I'm no longer the hopelessly devoted fucking Sandra D here, okay? Like, I not fucking going to do that. I'll say, okay, whatever. But they're never going to get that access to my heart in the same form that they had it before. Because before, I was giving myself selflessly to these people. Okay. And it's not just subject A and my ex. There's a handful of people, only a handful, mind you, that have gotten this side of me. Okay. But they've all in some way, shape, or form taken it for granted or lost their ever loving whatever. They have become people that are not, they're not going, I'm not going to allow them to entertain space in my life because of the way they act. If I were to, because I believe people can grow and change, the other side of it is all those people would never have the same thing back. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to be the same to them. I'm not going to be the same to my ex-husband because I'm not going to do all those things that he may have loved about me. And I would never be the same with subject A because I'm never going to get that invested if he and I were to start talking. I can't even with that right now. I can't even fucking like put that what if out there. Just fucking strike that from the record because I can't even imagine. But if I know anything about anything, it is saying never, okay? And because I am not coming from a place of anger and vengeance, okay? And because I am a forgiving person, it would really be dependent, like, on a lot of scenarios is my point. Like, there are so many variables considered on what level any of the people who I have decided to walk away from and take out of my life, and those that I'm letting back in, because what I basically did is imploded the whole fucking area, and other than my children, I created a safe zone, and I started rebuilding myself. And little by little, I may open the door slightly to interact with different levels of people that I have cut myself off of. First ones I went to, though, like longtime friends that I haven't talked to in a long time. I reopened those doors hell of a lot quicker than any of the most recent ones that have been shut. But I am not a person that believes that there is no redemption. I am not a person that I cannot believe. I forgive. I forgive my father for just not being a really great father. I forgive subject A for the pain and hurt that he caused me. You know, all I've ever done is forgiven my ex-husband. So, I mean, that just goes out there. Here's the deal though. Forgiveness does not equal acceptance. Okay? Forgiveness is for me. Because I don't want to carry around that anger. So knowing that going forward, I have to protect myself in a certain manner. Okay. Making sure that I maintain my self-worth and my boundaries and knowing these things and understanding that once somebody has shown you who they can be, they are capable of being that person. That does not mean that they can't grow and change, but in my way of life. Okay. And the way I look at it, that these people that have crushed my soul and done the things that have happened in the last few years that like brought me down to the most broken state of mind I've ever been in my life. Okay. Because of interacting with them, really. Lack of support when I needed it. I fell and I broke, and then everybody else was like dumping their broken shit on me too. Instead, nobody was thinking about me. Okay. That for you. But the thing is that now I get to have control about where I would ever, how far, like what level of acceptance my life and my new boundaries would have for anybody in my past. And so far, I got to be real. There's not really many from my past that I can see even being able to get me to answer the door, let alone start to let them in. So that's just the truth, which is sad and unfortunate, because I do know it does not change my feelings. It does not change my feelings how I feel about these people. What has changed is allowing those feelings and how I feel about these people, or how I once felt about these people and whatnot. Allowing that to play a role in what I'm willing, because I feel so bad for them and I feel so deeply for them that I'm willing to put up and accept behaviors and actions because I feel badly for them. After clawing my way out of hell with only children carrying any real weight to save me, if anybody's going to get credit besides saving my damn self, because that's the only way it works. But all I'm going to say is the support came from children, and I had to claw my way out of there. I don't feel sorry for anybody stuck in that darkness anymore. I'm sorry they're there, but I don't feel sorry for them. There's a difference. Because what I will say is, there's only one way out of it. And unfortunately, I know how hard it is. I know how dark it can be. I know all the things I'm saying. But the real truth is, you got to get your own ass out of it. And so I don't feel sorry for the people who are stuck there right now because it's time to go forward. You know, if you're going to choose to be stuck there, you're going to choose to be stuck there. And fighting to get unstuck from there and being willing to do what you need to do to be your best person, even if not everybody agrees with it or not everybody is on the same page as you, that doesn't matter. You support your own dreams. You support your own self. You need something, Logan? Yeah, sure. Do we have regular cheese for grilled cheese?
Be right back.
Okay. I was thinking maybe make some grilled cheese. Okay. But anyways, I will wait for IG to come back because I know he just said he'll be right back, and so then I'll start the video again. But the truth is that what I used to do is turn around and be like, well, this person went through this and this person went through that, and or this person's experiencing this and this person's experiencing that. They don't mean to act that way. They don't mean to do that. If they knew how they were actually affecting other people, they wouldn't choose that. They're better people than that. Nah. Maybe they are. It doesn't matter. Okay? Wow, I'm actually kind of a pompous ass. Because the thing is that when I got ill and I was losing control of myself and I couldn't control myself, I did know it. And that's what made me fight to get better, is knowing that I was behaving in a manner where I was making people feel a way that I did not want to have that effect on people. So that is the big thing that I was constantly fighting, not being someone who had that effect. And I guess that's what it boils down to. People have a choice. Be somebody people want to be around. In a world you can be anything, be fucking kind. You know? You don't have to be nasty. You don't have to throw things in people's faces. If you're feeling that upset about it, that you're going to bring up something that somebody did 20 fucking years ago repeatedly throughout the rest of a marriage, just walk the fuck away if you can't forgive them. Don't put them through that where they have to hear the same thing, the same mistakes they made play out over and over, because why does anybody want to change when they're going to hear that? It really just comes down to it. Everybody's got to make hard decisions to be their best self. And if you're around somebody that's not allowing you to be your best self, then you should make a different choice. So, you know, I guess that's what I feel. I don't know where IG is, but we're going to keep playing this chat.
The avoidant has learned to dismiss all the warning signs. What they thought was noise was actually the build-up to silence. That's why the departure hits like a thunderclap. The avoidant is often left confused, asking themselves what happened. Everything seemed fine. To them, it feels sudden, but in reality, it was years in the making. The anxious partner wasn't unpredictable. They were consistent. They were clear about their needs, they were vocal about their pain, and they gave the avoidant countless chances to step forward. The only reason it feels abrupt is because the avoidant never believed those words would be followed by action. When the action finally arrives, it creates a sense of betrayal, as if the anxious did something unfair. But it wasn't unfair, it was inevitable.
I know you're back, I just kept playing.
No offense.
Okay, well now we're at an ad.
If you're paying more than $50 per month on home insurance,
you didn't miss much. It's pretty much
you're getting ripped off.
things I've said.
There's another layer to the shock, the loss of the very dynamic that gave the avoidant security. Avoidance.
Besides, if I'm going to be real, you don't care about this part. This is everything that happens on his side of things. We were just talking about me. So, you know, I already know you believe 100% that he's just a narcissist and you don't care about this anyhow. But it does say a little bit more.
Often feel most comfortable when they hold emotional distance because closeness feels threatening. But that comfort is maintained only because someone else is doing the work of maintaining connection. The anxious fills in the gaps, bridges the distance, and ensures the bond doesn't snap. When they leave, the avoidant is forced to sit in the emptiness they created. There's no one running after them anymore, no one smoothing over the cracks. The silence becomes deafening. That silence can awaken a panic the avoidant never expected. They might find themselves suddenly trying to reconnect, sending messages, making calls, or even promising change. The irony is that they finally display the behavior the anxious craved all along, but by then, the anxious is usually past the point of caring. The avoidant isn't just blindsided by the loss, they're confronted by the painful truth that they had the love they wanted, and their own defenses pushed it away. It's not just loneliness they face, it's regret. This blindsiding effect is often the turning point for the avoidant. For some, it becomes the first time they confront their own patterns, realizing that what they thought was safety was actually self-sabotage. For others, it becomes a cycle. They retreat into further avoidance, telling themselves it's safer not to get attached at all.
Gee, which one do you think he's going to fall under? You want to take bets? I'm going to bet it's not the one of change.
Win. That's not the right mute button.
It's safer not to get attached at all. That's gonna be he's gonna put even more distance and lose out on living. And so it's not my job to inspire anybody, but that's gonna be that based on his past, he's not going to be the one to change. He's going to retreat further. This is gonna make him feel like he's going to get worse because of all of this, when he could have gotten better. Just another disappointment. Seriously. Anyways.
But no matter how they respond, the moment itself is unforgettable. The person they assumed would always be there is gone, not because of anger or a fight, but because they finally chose themselves.
Yep.
And that realization, more than anything else, is what makes the avoidant feel the weight of their own walls.
Sorry about that.
True strength doesn't always show up in the beginning of the anxious avoidant dance. At first glance, the anxious partner can look like the weaker one. The one chasing, begging, adjusting, and apologizing even for things that aren't their fault. They're the ones sending the long texts, asking for clarity, reaching for hugs when the avoidant stiffens, and showing up after every silent treatment. It looks like weakness because they're the one fighting harder, the one visibly afraid of losing the bond. But what often gets overlooked is that this kind of persistence takes enormous strength. It takes resilience to stay invested in a connection that feels inconsistent. It takes courage to show vulnerability again and again to someone who pulls back. And it takes endurance to continue believing in love when every signal says it might not be safe. That's why, when the anxious partner finally decides to stop chasing, the strength that's been there all along suddenly becomes visible. The decision to walk away doesn't come from anger, it comes from self-respect. It's a strength that says, I have given everything I can, I have shown up, I have fought, I have tried, and now I choose to stop abandoning myself in order to keep this relationship alive. That shift is profound. It's not just about leaving a partner, it's about redefining what love means to them. It's no longer about clinging to someone who withholds connection, but about honoring their own need for stability, warmth, and reciprocity. The moment the anxious partner chooses themselves, they move from reactive survival to conscious choice. For years, their nervous system dictated their moves. When the avoidant withdrew, they chased. When the avoidant went silent, they filled the silence. When the avoidant resisted intimacy, they leaned in closer. Their actions were fueled by fear of abandonment. But when they walk away, that fear is no longer running the show. They're not acting out of panic, they're acting out of clarity. And that clarity is a mark of strength. It shows they've learned that love shouldn't feel like a battle for scraps of attention, and that staying in a cycle that erodes their self-worth is far more frightening than facing life alone. This kind of strength.
Word in word. I'm just saying. I just want to take a minute and say that is exactly what has happened to me. Chat. This is true facts. So if you're struggling in these ways, did that sound awesome to you? Did you think that this being in that kind of state of mind sounds good to you? You gotta do that work, because this is where I'm at now. This is where I'm at. I'm just chill, bro. Like, I won't sacrifice my self-worth. I won't. I'm not mad. I'm not angry, and I'm no longer crying. You know? And now, I mean, it has been like this is about acceptance. It's about accepting that you cannot believe in the potential of somebody who doesn't believe in the potential of themselves. And if somebody is not willing to grow and change and meet you halfway on any fucking accord, they throw things in your face, everything is your fault, you always do this, all the fucking very bad fucking ways that relationships can just go haywire, okay? There comes a point in time where only somebody's got to realize that doesn't work. And most times they don't. Most times they will end up in this toxic cycle. Some of these people stay married forever because they get comfortable being toxic. And that's what I walked into, honestly. Honestly, there's neither one of these people are going to change. I don't believe it. But if one of them did, I could see, the aging of children and them moving out of the house being the next point where I could see his very anxious attachment style wife being like, I'm fucking finally done. Cause I get that. But there's no doubt about it. These are where they came from, whether it's narcissism. I mean, if it's narcissism, we already know how we feel, right? But all I'm saying is this avoidant attachment style, these behaviors right here, if he doesn't do something about them, he's going to eat his life. And I can't care. Because I'm not anxious. I'm not going to, I tried. I mean, I went down to the point where, because I thought we were breaking down in communication because he couldn't understand, like he was taking the wrong context out of my text messages, that seeing my affect and knowing like the tone of my voice and hearing me would be a better way for him to understand me. So when I had something I wanted to try to communicate, I would literally make a video, upload it to a fucking drive and share it with him so that there would be as little space for miscommunication as possible. But then there was no communication because he didn't respond to them. And then he'd say, I don't know what you want me to do. He was looking for like me to dictate an action. It wasn't about what I wanted him to do. It was about trying to build a two-way communication path. And there's only a one-way road. You know, it's not about what I wasn't doing it to elicit a response or behavior from him. I was doing it to build a bridge and close a gap because I thought we were having communication difficulties and he mattered enough to me that I had to try everything I could to close that communication gap, because I felt like a lot of the behaviors were stemming from being misunderstood on both sides of things. Him misunderstanding me and me misunderstanding his behaviors at the times. And I truly believe that. But I was the one making the videos and sending them. I was the one like going out of my way to try as hard as I did. Okay? And he had that. And he saw that. And he still turned around and made the choices he made. And there's nothing I can do about that. His behavior is out of my control. So now I've done exactly this. I've taken that strength and all of my dedication and everything that I've gone through, okay? I've taken that and I've turned it inward and learned to love myself, which was ironically just really hard to do. And I talked about this in my previous streams. There's a difference between having self-confidence and loving who you are and showing your self-love and doing self-care. I was really good at the first two. The last two, not at all. Now I've learned how to do that. I don't need anybody else to love me because I love myself. Where when we're not doing that, leaves the door open where we're trying to find that love from other places in whatever forms. And then when we think we've felt it, we are almost incapable of letting it go. Not realizing that it's never gone if you love yourself because you're always with yourself.
Doesn't always roar.
No.
Sometimes it looks
Play
like quiet detachment, like no longer reacting to a missed call, no longer feeling the urge to over-explain, no longer needing to be the one who fixes everything. It's the strength of restraint, of refusing to get pulled back into the same patterns. And for the avoidant, that restraint is shocking because it breaks the script they've relied on. The anxious isn't there to bridge the gap anymore. They've stepped out of the dance. What makes this strength so powerful is that it's not just about leaving, it's about transforming. The anxious partner learns that their capacity to love deeply isn't a flaw, it's a gift. But that gift needs to be shared with someone who meets them halfway, not someone who keeps them in a constant state of uncertainty. Their sensitivity, their loyalty, their passion, all the things that once made them feel too much, become their superpower when directed toward themselves and relationships that are truly reciprocal. And perhaps the harshest truth for the avoidant is that once the anxious partner discovers this strength, they rarely come back, not because they're bitter, but because they've outgrown the cycle. They've seen their own value, and once you've tasted that kind of freedom, it's impossible to settle for anything less.
Word.
What once looked like weakness was actually a waiting period, a time of endurance until the moment they realized they deserved more. That realization is final. It's the point where the anxious partner transforms from the pursuer to the chooser, and from that point on, their story is written on their terms, not dictated by someone else's fear of intimacy. So, when the anxious finally walks away from the avoidant, it isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the moment the person who fought hardest for the connection finally realizes they deserve a love that doesn't require chasing, convincing, or begging. The avoidant may feel blindsided, But the truth is, this ending isn't sudden. It's the result of years of quiet warnings, of repeated efforts, of loyalty stretched past its breaking point. And when that loyalty turns inward, when the anxious stops pouring love into a wall and starts pouring it into themselves, the whole dynamic flips. The harsh truth is that the anxious isn't too much. They're simply giving their love to someone who couldn't hold it. And once they learn to stop apologizing for their depth, they discover that what made them anxious wasn't their nature, it was the imbalance of the relationship. Their sensitivity, their devotion, their passion, all of it becomes the foundation for a healthier, deeper, more fulfilling love story. One that doesn't require them to sacrifice who they are just to keep someone else comfortable. So if you've ever felt like the one who cared more, the one who tried harder, or the one who stayed longer, know this: your strength isn't in how long you hold on, but in your ability to let go when holding on means losing yourself. That's the real turning point. That's when the anxious stops being defined by fear and starts being defined by power. Thank you so much for being here and for listening with an open heart.
All right, so I will put this link when I repost and everything, and when I do this stuff, I have the link so that I will share it, so you can just go and have it. Some people want to keep it for reference or be able to listen to it in full without me talking over it. Cool. Yeah, let me see. Can I do this now? I can do this, and then I can do this. We'll turn the TV off. There we go. And yeah, so anyhow, no, when I saw it all this morning, so I don't know. I know you were having trouble listening to it all, IG, and we've been live for a long time right now, but it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Like, just find a video on the internet that like so perfectly, and I was way more focused in this particular video, just to be clear, chat. Whatever about subject A. This is like literally just whatever. I know I've talked so much about it and I've worked so through it and I've gotten so far. I'm like legitimately at this point am like, it doesn't matter why he acted the way he doesn't matter, because I think that everybody got really worried when I was trying to figure this out, though, that knows me, my family, I mean, they were worried because if I could come up with any justifiable thing, then they might watch me spiral because I would let this man back into my life again. And this is the thing that I want to make absolutely clear for my family's sake, and just because I know that I was unstable for a long time, and I know that I exhibited a lot of behaviors that nobody would want me to put myself in a position where either my ex-husband or subject A, for this matter, could affect me in the ways that people have seen their behaviors affect me. Nobody would want to take that risk again. And without having it put into practice, there's no way for them to trust that. That's the real truth. Now, here's what I have to say about it, though. Over my dead fucking body, bro, will I give up my level of peace? Okay? How much I let people in, there is that holy devout, like, be so loyal, so devoted, say something and stick to it. No. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I'm on island time now. How they behave today is how much they'll be in my life today. And how they behave tomorrow is how much they could be in my life tomorrow. And how they behaved yesterday, well, all I know is tomorrow better be a better day. That's all I'm saying. Like, if it is, like, in the moment is the way I'm living my life. And so just because I can't say always never, I would have very easily been able to say never was I going to let my ex-husband be in, after that. What it all kind of went down at the same time, to be honest. I had a real soul awakening between these two. I did over the last, because my ex-husband knew what was going on. Okay. And then you had subject A. I literally felt like I was a fucking piece of meat in between two dogs, like having a fight. They were like fighting over a bone. Neither one of them cared how they affected me. Neither one, these people that have been in my life so long, my husband for 20 some years, well, we were married 24 years. I think he's been in my life for 26, and subject J in my life for 17 years. Okay. Like all the fucking history and everything. Okay. And nobody truly cared how their behavior was affecting me. It was just about what they wanted from me. And that stands true. How I was in their life and where they wanted me placed in their life, because that's the behavior they showed me. And I am not a placeable object. And I will not lower my self-worth to a point where I am ever hopelessly devoted to anyone again. I have already gotten to a point with my ex-husband I literally am like, well, I'm done talking to you today, and hang up the phone and just don't talk to him for the rest of the day because he's in a mood or we've had a conversation that I just, nope, not doing it. Sorry. Nope, my time's too valuable for this bullshit. Okay? And if I can do it with my ex-husband of 24 years.
Bye-bye.
Yep. But here's what I need to tell the rest of you because you guys get real worried. And I think part of your reason why you don't like bringing up the topic is because you know damn well that if subject A is a narcissist, there is no space in my life for him ever again. And that is a comfort to you if I'm going to be real. You feel comfortable with that, which is why maybe you might be wanting to hang on to it because heaven forbid your very loving, caring mother who turns around and tends to use these situations to feel bad and justify people's behavior, even be tempted to drink the Kool-Aid. Okay. But you know that same mother had a father who was narcissistic and was able to walk away. So if we keep subject A in the category of narcissism, then nobody has anything to worry about. But that's not true either, because this all depends on me. Whether he's narcissist, whether he's avoidant, whether your father has Asperger's, or whether he's just an ass some days. None of that fucking matters. Because here's the new deal going forward. Who I am is who I am. And I know that I am can be very loud, high-strung, passionate, and all the things that I can be. Okay? But I know where my heart is. And I'm not sacrificing or wasting my time or energy on anybody that I have to excuse or justify behavior for anyway anymore. That's the point. If I even find myself right now going, well, it's just because your dad has Asperger's, or it's just because your dad is struggling with trauma, that's going to be the day that I just decide not to talk to him. Because I'm not justifying or excusing anybody's behavior. Because in the end, what I really learned about all this is nobody could even take a minute to understand where I was coming from and the kind of hell I was lost in. Only the people who truly, truly knew me to my core understood what putting myself in a psych ward was like, especially having to call 911 with a lifelong fear of police officers. I made choices to save myself. Nobody did it. I had support that enabled me to save myself, but these two individuals specifically were not part of that. The only ones that were you kids. But now you guys loved me and supported me enough to get me to the side of the fucking bridge. Where I go from here, this isn't a bad habit to break. This is a new mentality. And nobody's going to get that. That's what's the sad part. Because the real truth is, even if subject A grows and changes and gets healthier, he will never, no matter how much he tried, would he ever gain access to me in the manner that he's had it in the past. And neither will your father. That's the real truth. Neither will your aunt. Either one of them. The people of my past who put themselves where they were and treated me the way they did while I was where I was at will forever be remembered of being capable for kicking me when I was down. And now I lifted myself up this fucking high. I'm not letting anybody in that might, to a level. I gave them that power. I loved so much. I cared so much. I stayed devoted so much. I did that. The only way those people get to affect me the way they did in these last 2 years again is if I continue to behave that way, and I won't. I literally, at this point, have cut an emotional attachment that I don't believe either one of those people is capable of rebuilding. Doesn't mean that I can't be... I care very much. I love your father. I love your father. Even though he's my ex-husband. I love your father. I do. I love myself more. I won't go out of my way to make his life easier like I used to at a self-sacrificial level. And that is something that is going to be very hard. If anybody from my past wants to come into my new life, a lot of people were my friends and part of my life because they valued that out of me. That I was so supportive and loving. They're going to be met with something different. I'm not saying I'm going to be mean. I'm going to be indifferent, literally. I'm not going to have the investment of taking my time to share my words specifically with those people. I'm not going to have the passion or the compassion, whichever one. It's not ever going to be there at the same level again. It won't. Because they showed me that it was a waste of my time. That's what they taught me with their actions. Now, going forward, who knows the kind of people that I meet and interact with? Who knows what kind of friends I might make? Who knows what kind of relationships may be built going forward? But I can guarantee you this much. These relationships I've walked away from in the last couple of years were built 20 years ago when I was at my unhealthiest. Who I am today and the kind of relationships the kind of people I am going to choose to interact with and be involved with are going to be of a different mindset in a different category anyway. And who knows what life will bring me. What I know right now is what the people have shown me that are not in my life or have been put at a distance. I hope they enjoyed whatever they knew me as, because they'll never get it on the same level again, no matter what. No longer will I ever put my love and heart and trust into somebody who can diminish my self-worth. Never. Nobody's ever going to get that much out of me. But the difference is, the people in my past see that as an attack. The people in my future will see that as healthy, good, and respectable. And that's where the lines will be drawn. So be a person that can be healthy, good, and respectable. You don't need to yell at me. You don't need to throw accusations. Be a fucking adult. Have conversation. I now talk with my ex-husband about things that I never thought we would end up talking about. Conversations can be uncomfortable, but at least they're being had. That's how I know there's room for growth. But in the end, can he truly accept? Will he still feel the way he feels about me when he realizes that it doesn't come with the whole kit and caboodle of me trying to play fucking perfect wife, making sure that I do all these things? Is that even the kind of relationship he wants? Because that's the kind of wife he had. Maybe he wants that in his life. And if I'm no longer willing to be that kind of person, then he deserves to find somebody who is. And I'll be happy for him. Because that's what real healing looks like. But he shouldn't waste his time with me if that's what he's expecting, and I'm damn fucking upfront about that. How our relationship grows from here? Will we just end up being really great friends? Maybe. Will we end up getting remarried someday? Maybe. I mean, I don't fucking know. All I know is that this is who I am now. And when it doesn't fit into a little box, okay, that works for them, well, that's not me, and I don't put my thoughts or myself in fucking boxes. I am who I am. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. You get what you get. And you either are going to be somebody that can tolerate and understand me and really truly know. And I believe that those that know me the deepest, that know where my heart is, that's why they put up with my fucking less attractive traits. You know, I can be a real shit to power cane. Just saying. But the way that we handle it, everybody can be a real shit from time to time. People aren't perfect. But the way we handle our conflicts, Power Cane and I, we got that shit mastered. I mean, he probably should be a little bit more willing to be like, Andromeda, stop being a fucking bitch, but I understand why he won't. I can be scary when I'm in that mindset, I guess. Nobody wants to, most people are just like, just let her cool off for a minute, which isn't a bad choice either. Because usually if I am truly a shit and you just let me cool off, I turn around and I come with my tail between my legs and go, damn, that was uncalled for and unhealthy, and I'm kind of a shit because I'm not perfect and I'm a human. So, it is what it is. But anyways, as you guys know on the podcast, I've been doing this now. This is number 62. But I started this all off, and it was full of a lot of babbling, incoherent, raw emotional processing, trauma dumping, to just verbalizing and working through my emotions, tears and everything. Subject A was like, you make me sound like a predator on your streams. Bro, that's what it felt like. That's what I experienced. So on my side of things, whether you're a predator or not, I mean, if it hits home, that's rough for you. But all I'm saying is the behaviors were predatory. Sorry, it's nothing about feelings here. Not trying to be a bitch, but that's what they classified as. When we're using words like grooming, okay, these are big boy words that scream predator. So don't be one. I guess, like
just that simple. Actually, just don't do that.
Yeah, just learn how to behave better. Then,
lock in.
Yeah,
don't
get with life. Yep, exactly. And recognizing and accepting, this will be the big thing that changes going forward for me, seriously, is I used to try to hold on for potential more than I would focus on any progress. And when I don't see progress, there's no potential. And anybody that looks at you and says, I am just the way I am, which actually both Subject A and my ex-husband have said, these are the two most important male relationships probably in my life that I've ever had. And they could have left me really angry and, toxic moving forward. But why the hell would I want to spend any more time robbing somebody out there that will value me for who I am of time to value me? the longer I stay toxic, I just repeat a cycle and I look for more of these types of individuals that are going to act this way towards me. Getting my own shit straight, I'm going to attract people around me with my confidence and my behavior that are more on my level. Instead of accepting that the friendships and relationships I made 20 years ago will just step up. I'm just going to walk onto platforms that are already on the rise. And that's the way I'm going to look at it. And the real tragedy here is not what I've gone through. Not my pain, actually. It's their loss. Because I really am an incredible person who has such a huge heart and capacity to love. And I might have been hopelessly devoted before, but my loyalty is worth something. I just was giving it to the wrong people. And that gets to be in my control now. And somebody out there will definitely appreciate it. And why am I going to waste time trying to convince people that they should, instead of just navigating towards those who will? I don't have to prove myself to anyone. But in the end of the day, the real truth is, I'm not the one losing, because I'm the one shedding the weight of bad, unhealthy behaviors that make people feel like trash and toxicity. I'm dropping that and walking away. So they're the losers. And I don't mean that as a loser. I mean, like, they lost me. And that's a huge loss. Now, whether or not any of them will fucking ever realize it, fuck if I care. I don't care. All I know is I'm not worried about it anymore. It's their loss. Where I'm going from here and the kind of life I am every single day, it's just even stronger and better. And all I know for now is there's only one person I'm hopelessly committed to: myself. Because it turns out, as hard as it was to do, and yeah, like I talk about it sometimes, I get lonely. I miss relationships. Like, I don't even open up with my ex-husband. Like, we talk about a lot of things just pertaining to like what we've gone through, emotional processing of this whole experience. But as far as sharing overall my new dreams, well, my ex-husband, he's never been much interested in those. So I don't really talk about those much. You know? So I will say that I get to a point where just my excitement for life and my vibrancy when I'm living it, that I just wish there was somebody to share it with from that perspective. But that's why I have Gunner. I mean, Logan was with me yesterday too, but finding sea turtles for the first time, my excitement for life I can never again allow my passion, my love, my excitement to be shrouded trying to hang on to somebody who doesn't see it and is actually turning their behaviors, causing me to not be those things I love about myself. I can't do it. I can't allow that. I love myself too much now for that. And, Crypto's got an itch and he is so dramatic. Oh my God. I don't know if it's coming through the microphone, but it usually does. Just to let everybody know, the dog's not dying. Okay. He's got an itch and he's not having attention. Anyhow. But yeah. So what I was going to say about this though is a real important thing here is that I know it makes you nervous, but you have to realize, IG, thanks to your love and support and everybody's love and support in this house, I don't think anybody has to worry about that. There's not, I just don't believe, unless it would have to happen so slowly over time. And if you ever think it is happening, please warn me, because it would have to be the slowest. It'd have to be like I don't think I'll be alive long enough for somebody to to spend the amount of time it would take for me to become hopelessly loyal again. Like, it would have to be the world's longest. I think I will be moving forward. I'll be capable of walking away from anything at any time. And the sad part of that is it might also mean that people moving forward never get the full me, that I'm willing to really give it up. But who knows? Trust and time build different things. But I just know it's going to be a long road before anybody is let in on a level that would be capable of spiraling me again. New relationships and old alike. It doesn't really matter, because the power is with me now. That's where it lies. I'm not making excuses for anyone else anymore. And the real truth is finally putting in the work to become the person I become, even though it can get lonely and I can wish that I had certain aspects of my life to share in certain ways with other people and, that kind of stuff. Even though I might miss that, it's not enough for me to just want to go find it either. It's like would have been nice if, that's the way life worked out. But right now, that's not the way life is. And so I'll enjoy it myself. I can enjoy it myself. It's my life. There's nobody worth it right now to come along with me on that level, of existence. And so, but before it used to be a thing that would, we can be driven and we feel so lonely that we want that companionship and we don't want to be alone so badly that we go looking and we'll accept behaviors from people that we shouldn't, or we'll try to change ourselves in ways that we shouldn't, or we'll do whatever just out of that not wanting to be alone. Yeah, that's not me anymore. That's not me anymore. Like, if my marriage didn't work out, having any relationship is not even on my radar. Being in a relationship with myself is the only thing on my radar right now. But even moving forward, I'm not sure. I actually even had this conversation with your dad. I was like, I told him the other night, I was like, if we manage to go forward, like, I want to keep finances separate. I want to keep, basically, I told your father that if we were to work on anything, he might as well plan on the equivalent of dating me. I want my own place, I want my own stuff, and I want my own existence. And I am willing to possibly consider us working towards a relationship dynamic where we are still actively acting like a family in that manner, or even possibly, if we get to a point where even if I remarried him, but he's not going to get the level out of me that he had before, and it's not what I want in life. I don't want to be Susie Homemaker. I want to be kite surfing Andromeda. I want to be on the bay. I want to live. I want to go look at sea turtles. I want to do things that are my life, and I'm not waiting for anybody to join me, and I'm not waiting to do it. And so the truth is, I held myself back in my marriage for so long because of the things he didn't like to do, because he didn't like going out and being social too much, because, whatever, Asperger's and whatnot. Well, it's up to me. Like, that didn't need to stop me from, not doing it. And would I like to have somebody in my life that I can go and hang out and do the cool thing? I think that's what kept me stuck to Subject A so hard, though, because the things that Subject A enjoyed are things I enjoyed. And so he was that person. Not even Nightstar was that person. He was that person. He was a person that I could hang out with and watch. We know I'm not a movie person. I hate movies. I really do. But the movies he would choose to watch, that's why we watch movies so often, because, they were good movies. He literally was like my movie bouncer, the ways that we hung out and the things we enjoyed doing, we shared them, which may have been why it was so hard, because actually that's where it differed. My marriage wasn't even with somebody that shared the things I like doing. We had very vast differences on what we enjoyed. So knowing that Subject A and I shared it, give me 1 second. Sorry. But the dog's very distracting, and I'm like, will you please just scratch his back? But anyhow, no, it's like, I think that's what probably even let me hang on even longer and being unwilling to let go of, because over 17 years, all the time I spent with Subject A was doing something that I wouldn't even go do with my ex-husband, because my ex-husband didn't like doing those things. My ex-husband's all into the comedies, and I'm, geeky, and just so many things. But what I realized is that I guess that I can miss that. But finding that doesn't mean sacrificing myself either. I didn't have to put up with the way I was being treated in order to maintain a friendship. And it was never going to happen anyway. One of the hardest things that I came around to with this Subject A is once he ghosted me, I said something to him and I was like, you know what? That's all right. I get it. And I was having a moment and I was like, well, I'm going to move down to the coast basically. And I was like, but you think that, we could set one day a year, when I come up, we could get together once a year and just hang out and whatever. And he's like, I don't want to make any commitments, but I think I could handle that. Well, I'm sorry, you can't even be like, yeah, I want to see you once a year. He had no intention when he stopped talking to me, and when he started to ghost me, he had no intention of ever seeing me again. And he didn't even tell me that. That pissed me off. Yeah, I was fucking mad. Well, now here's the good news. He doesn't ever have to. So he should be happy. I'm sure he is. And I don't care. So yeah. But anyways, true to my nature, guys, I learned something new this morning, and also because my body is absolutely wrecked, I have been so I put on, I knew the UV things were a fucking problem, and they put out warnings yesterday, you know. Actually, here, hold on. I wonder, oh no, I don't want to. I can't. Now, because they don't go based on like different rooms and whatever, I can't just easily switch us from in Fujitech so that we can just go back to the tiki bar. But anyways, no, I am so sore and so tired and so like, oh my God, after so walking, and yesterday was that was only yesterday, right? Yeah, it was yesterday. I was gonna be like, if that was 2 days ago already, I'm so much older than I thought. Tomorrow I'll be ready to do it again. My goal is to get out to the channel tomorrow. I got some paperwork and shit to do today. I'm gonna take it easy and be at home. But tomorrow afternoon. So I don't know what you're doing tomorrow afternoon, IG. But
tomorrow afternoon is Thursday, isn't it? Yeah.
But the deal is that it's my theory that sea turtles are in the morning and dolphins
Dolphin at night.
Well, not night, afternoon to evening. They're late risers. They don't get up until later in the day, I think. Probably because they're passing around those puffer fishes way too late past their bedtime. Fun fact, if you don't know this, just because, you know, here we are, living dreaming, I learned things. Dolphins will activate a puffer fish and pass it around to their friends because the toxins that cause the puffer fish to puff, okay, the poisons and the toxins that come out of the puffer fish are actually a different kind of neurotoxin that makes the dolphin basically feel high. So they will activate it, play with it like a ball, passing it around to one another in order to have that sense of calm that basically humans use marijuana for. Kind of funny. They're kind of dicks though, because you think about it,
A little
like,
bit.
you know. But it's funny to me that what is toxic to so many other predators in the ocean of a puffer fish that makes them puff, the dolphins be over there strong as hell, being like, "Give me a little bit of that, man." That's awesome. So yeah, I don't think they get up until the afternoon. Yeah, and that stands pretty true to, you know, the human natures of the same community. Just chill. Just chill. So anyways, I think we go and screw that elusive dolphin that keeps running away from me, that one elusive dolphin out at Snoopy's Pier. Let's just go to the channel where they all come through. The channel leads around to Snoopy's, basically.
Totally.
We'll
Totally
catch 'em.
we'll catch them there too.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Let's do that. And also I found out that the channel is actually like I was reading the other day that's like during certain moments you want to like either get there early or whatever because it's such a hot fishing spot. They hold a lot of fishing stuff down there. Like competitions,
Really?
like whatever. Yeah. Yeah. And there's usually a couple fishermen down there when I go down there, but from what I know, most of them go to the jetty. But I guess the channel, and both times we've been there now, it's actually really quiet. So I think I may have found us a really great place to go fishing. They even have a place to sit, and they've got a pavilion and everything. So I'd like to go fishing. I'm scared of what we'll catch. And what's going to happen if we
I wanna
catch
go
something that we're
fishing.
scared of?
That's simple. Cut the line, toss it immediately.
You can't. You can't just do that. Those lines kill baby sea turtles. They have a literal special place to put unused. Like you have to get them. We have to get them in. We have to do our best. We can't leave plastic in the ocean. So gloves.
Well then, don't be fucking scared.
All right, so
Little
you won't
bitch.
be scared.
Little
What I'm
baby
telling
bitch.
you is I lack this ability, and I absolutely will scream and get hurt if we pull in like one of those red fish and we need to get it off the hook to let it go. This is not my strong suit.
Might want to invest in some gloves anyway, just because I bet you the fish here have sharper teeth than in a lake. If we get something that big.
I mean, northerns have some pretty serious teeth. Just saying. They would. That's why they call them northerns. Like northerners.
Northerners don't have sharp teeth. They have the most dull teeth known to mankind.
Okay.
They eat the most bland ass food up there. I can
Oh
see
my God.
why
Okay.
freaking
I'm sorry. I
Dad
did
was
not mean.
like-
Stop with the stop with the
No wonder why
northern
Dad said
hemisphere.
fucking a
hate.
green pepper is spicy. They eat all their food bland. They fucking have that shit imported from Britain.
Okay, chat. With that, though, I do have a couple errands I do have to run today before I lay low at home. I'll get the link up in this description. I'm going to end up putting this particular stream is going up over on YouTube. And then I got a short that I got to edit from yesterday because I saw baby sea turtles and I haven't posted it to YouTube yet. So if you haven't, go over there and throw me a subscription over on YouTube. Just keep in mind that the good hard, we do the recording basically. This is users recordings over here. Not everything that is done here goes up on YouTube because YouTube doesn't like my, hey, I'm just shooting the shit kind of stuff. They like the information, which makes sense because that's the audience over there. And I'm totally down with that. So I share that when I do something that's informational, I share that over on YouTube and so on and so forth. And pretty soon, more personal experiences of what has led me to all of these revelations and my actual experiences will be categorized and available to people via membership so that you can have different levels of content, depending on what you're interested in learning more about and the things that I talk about, because it's such a huge scope of things from beach living to childhood trauma. I cover about all of it. Family, marriage, special needs. Yeah, I'm a smorgasbord of just quite honestly hard experiences that taught me something. So now I want to share the knowledge, and that's what we do over here. So you know what I'm going to tell you. You make sure that you take good care of yourself today. Do something good for yourself. Take a herbal bath. And I guess we'll see you guys when we see you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.